sometimes you do have to talk to somebody, be like, hey, am I crazy to think this way? Or, because that's the way of the universe, nobody can tell you why or how.
You can't escape yourself.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
whatever escape you'll find, it's you who'll be finding the escape. People get old.
Yeah.
People, that's what's wrong with that. There's no problem. You just, you get old, you get ugly, that's fine. The sales is always the presentation of a better reality than it is.
Yeah.
That's
Just
the part that pisses me off. Okay, you want this more money? Like, get it. Like, it costs me less time and less nerves to just do it that way.
Right.
So I often just pay premium because that's the simplest thing. Essentially, your main job as a person is to not be scammed.
No.
At any point, because it happens all the time.
Like, lessen the amount of time you get scammed, because I don't think you can actually prevent yourself from being scammed.
Hello, hello. Back for episode 17 at this point.
Yeah.
We've been hitting the stride with a couple of last episodes. I get into our natural style, I think.
Which is just detours.
Which is just letting the thought stream flow, which is, I like that the most because I think it works out really well. In the last couple of episodes, we've gone pretty deep. We've gone properly deep. We've gotten fully transcendental on the last one. And I want to keep doing that because that seems like what naturally happens with your interest and attention, and it does bring us to interesting points where we don't even expect what happens. But I also want to introduce a couple of recurring things just that we can keep doing every episode, just so it's an opportunity to review what we've discussed and kind of continue the thought partially, but also not completely restricted to anything specific. But I do like this idea of continuity because it's almost like we gradually exploring or maybe even developing our own philosophy this way, because some things we do revisit, but some of it totally results in new insights and new ideas and new even additions to the list sometimes. So I do want to work on the list, and I want to work on reviewing what we've done. Also potentially reviewing a couple of those derivative things that I've been working on. I wanted to read you a couple of the jokes that was based on our material. I want to see what you think, because they're kind of fun. Yeah, they're fun and they're pretty short. But to review for the last episode, the sum of last one, just a few topics, which is, I guess this is just a short summary. So central idea was skepticism toward certainty without method, whether the source is a guru, a spiritual teacher, political system, or workplace norm. So that's been kind of on the forefront of my mind because it's just a general idea of what can you trust, right? What can you trust and why? Second repeated theme is that belief systems matter because they shape behavior, identity, and social cohesion, even when their truth claims remain unresolved. So that's, I think we've discussed that before as well. It's kind of like what religion is, right? It's that you can believe what religion claims without verifying that it's true, and believing the religion modifies and shapes your behavior. It's kind of what Jordan Peterson talked about before, that he believes in God and he behaves as if he is real, right? But he never addresses like if he thinks he's real or what real is it even is. Then we had a deep tension in the conversation between wanting liberation from suffering and fearing the loss of self that some spiritual paths seem to imply. We did discuss that. It was a key point in the whole discussion. The most practical cross-topic insight was that self-awareness functions as the host's preferred tool for handling desire, stress, purpose, loss, and social complexity. That's something we'll also keep returning to, that self-awareness is just a very high form of virtue that anybody can practice. It's just we concluded on the fact that we are continuing an ongoing inquiry into how to live sanely in a confusing world. So,
okay, so just a couple things that kind of came to mind. It's like, how do you learn to swim as a fish? It's like the fish knows how to
Yeah,
swim.
it's seamless, right? You don't think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it. But oftentimes in life, it's like, at least for us, is trying to be able to almost like trying to be able to swim better, because as you try to learn about all these things that happens in the world and all these different aspects of it, you're trying to
What does
kind of,
better mean?
because there's so many different ways to do one thing. That's why everybody's doing different stuff, even though we're all given the same setup, more or less. This is just an abstraction. But you're born as a human being. You don't really have an extra finger or whatever. Some people do, but most of us have the same setup. So you're not necessarily better than other people per se, right? You don't have an extra thing that just give you a massive advantage. Even though one could say, IQ and intelligence
Well,
is,
you still
is one
have your
thing.
own unique configuration that is different from everybody else's, right?
Yeah. So
That's the same.
what I'm trying to say is, from what you list there, I keep thinking about the point about self-awareness is almost giving yourself an extra layer of perception, right? Because if you constantly in your own head, then you're limiting your own way of looking at things, because you are naturally limited by your sensory perception. So if you added that extra layer of self-awareness, meaning that you are expanding your awareness out into more than just what's happening inside your.
I actually started questioning this because at this point, I don't believe that's a thing because I don't
Ah,
understand what you're saying right now. What do you mean? What is that process? You don't have anything else beside your regular awareness. That's all there is. What is this process of doing whatever you were just describing? What is that? What are you talking about? It's whatever enters your awareness. That's all that there is.
I guess I'm saying is that you are trying to, because by self-aware, you are start to see
But what is
yourself.
that? What do you mean by self-aware? As opposed to what? When are you not self-aware?
Well, a lot of people are not self-aware, that they're not aware of what they're doing, right? I mean, they are doing it. They're in it. They're in the the experience of executing whatever comes to their mind, right? As you go through
But
your
how is
daily
that
life.
possible? What do you mean? How are you not aware of what you're doing? How are you
What
doing it
you
then?
are aware, but not aware in the way of, let's just say, in context to everything else, right? Because you could be, okay, I'm cooking. Okay. I could be just, I know I'm cooking, but in terms of, okay, maybe not a good example, but like, especially when you start thinking about philosophy and things that are kind of more abstract and concept, it's when you start to think about these things, and if you have a, when we use the word self-aware, most of the time we use it to describe this sort of almost meditative state of awareness where you are thinking of yourself in your environment, as opposed to be so into the activity that you don't recognize that, oh, you're like, how sometimes we just go autopilot, right? Like, we're doing things, yeah, we are aware what we're doing, but what about the context, right? What does that, okay, I'm working at a job. What does that job mean, right? Because isn't this what we're asking the question of? Like, wait, what's the meaning of everything? What's the definition? Why are we doing the thing that we do? That level of awareness is stepping outside of yourself almost. So what I'm trying to say is, as you kind of, I just say, go into this kind of meditative process of getting more aware of your relation to everything else,
So
you
it's
get,
just kind of like analyzing your behavior and
yeah. So
what you've
that's the
done, what
self,
happened to you, asking more questions about it, right?
right? So
What
I
it
think we
means
got,
for other people, what is it in the context of a larger story about you, right? About what you
right.
desire. Yeah,
Because,
so it's kind of like more than an analytical process. That's what it means, right?
right, which is why, why certain people why would they gravitate to a religion, gravitate to, or some sort of systems of thoughts and what have you. It's just that they themselves do not know what's the meaning of life. They don't know, okay, why am I supposed to do? What am I, that's why there's always this yearning for more knowledge, more things, to know more about the world, let's just say. And some people figure that, well, there must be a God. There must be, that, well, how could any of this become this thing that they are without some kind of design, right? So it's these kind of questions that from the ancient time to now, right? A lot of people are wrestling with these questions. Okay, well, do we have an answer for that? So, the whole of human history has just been trying to find out by going outside the realm of what we know, right? And civilization is built on knowledge, right? Built on the stuff that being learned and processed and systematized, and we build all these things. So, but there are questions where we can't really find answer directly, which is why religion and the argument for and against religion are still happening, because nobody can find out whether that is to be proven or disproven. So that is still an ongoing thing,
Yeah,
right?
I listened to some discussions between different scientists, Russian scientists, and they're kind of like, they have this fun YouTube conversations where they're discussing all the different scientific facts, but they have different scientists and different kind of thinkers that are specialized in their thing, and they're talking to each other. So it's very interesting because essentially you can't be that knowledgeable about all of the things, right? You still have to specialize. If you have a deep understanding of a topic like physics, that's all your time. You spend all your time on that. You may know some about all the other things, but it's not going to be as deep. So these people are kind of having these conversations. Well, as a physicist, this is what I see, this is what happens. And then here comes a biologist and tells like, well, actually, and this is what happens in biology. And it blows their mind, right? And it keeps happening like with the different sides. It's very fascinating, but also there's, I think, maybe they have a philosopher here and there, or somebody invokes a philosophical line in questioning, because philosophy essentially, it is present in science. Like it has to be present in science because it's part of the understanding why things happen, right? But the biggest point that they were having essentially is that science on its own really doesn't explain anything. It always describes things. It just describes like, yeah, this thing, we call it this, and then it went there, and this is what happened. But at no point ever it describes, like, it answers why, why question.
Why does it happen, right?
So the why is very interesting. So why is essentially, it's not really part of science, because science never answered any single why. It just describes, yeah, this is what happened, this is what this exploded, this went here. And why seems to be in the realm of philosophy and, I guess, spirituality. Philosophy, in a sense that philosophy is kind of like thinking about thinking, almost.
Yep. Or why you think.
But this,
certain way.
The why thing is also like, it bothers me at this point because there can be no end to it.
Yeah.
And it just, after asking it so many times, you get kind of tired because you realize there's no end to it. And it's like imagine you created a piece of art, and then somebody asks you like, why did you make this? Oh, this and this inspired me. It's like, why did you choose this thing, this color? And like, well, it's because it corresponds to this emotion. But why did you place that emotion? You know what I mean? It's like, and you can keep going up to every single decision until it becomes essential, until you realize, well, at some point, the answer becomes obscured because it's below consciousness. It came from before you were able to know why. It came out and you're like, and then you created the story around it.
And even the viewer is like thinking about it. It's like, well, you're wrong because I perceive it this way. So what do you mean you thought okay, you're the creator, you made it this way. If that's the reason that why you made it, okay. But I didn't see it that way. That's how interesting it is, because art can be perceived in many different ways. So sometimes things can be misinterpreted. Things can be or maybe in the other way, that the art wasn't that deep. And somehow people thought this is the deepest shit ever.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with interpretation and crafting of meaning and the narrative. I kind of think that most of the things in reality are up for interpretation, which means nobody's interpretation really is above any other interpretation, which kind of is, in the camp of postmodernism. But we see so many examples of this where this is kind of a lot of people think about it that way, whether consciously or unconsciously. But it's apparent to me in all kinds of debates. I actually wanted to bring this up today on a specific example that I had with a YouTuber. But before we're getting too deep already. Before we jump into all of this, because this is exactly what I wanted to do and continue this exploration and lead this thought forward. But it kind of leads into that deep ground from which we will not be able to reemerge for another 3 hours after we dive in. Let me go through a couple of those. Oh yeah, I wanted to read you a couple of jokes I made based on our previous material. And at this point, essentially, I've analyzed all the episodes, and I'm gradually going from number one to the latest one to see what are the tropes and premises that can be turned into jokes. So I got several jokes per episode at this point.
You're like a system engineer, man. That's how you mind think, right? You gotta
Yeah.
scour through the entire data set, you know?
Yeah. Because I don't want to miss out. Like, we've definitely talked about a few things that were interesting. Funny enough, the one that I found to be least packed with material for jokes and insights was the couple episodes we did on art. Because it was only a couple of interesting or funny things that we had there, and they were all derived from the video itself. So this is why I'm like, I don't really like that mode that much, because it's not much of we're not crafting as much there.
We're trying to explain away things, I guess.
Somebody else's thoughts. And so I wasn't able to come up with much interest in there. So we'll get to those jokes and eventually too, so you can check them out. And also, I wanted to start doing a couple of things for each episode. So we did the summary. I put the episode into a form of a cone. So if we were put it into a cone, the whole episode was saying, the one who seeks freedom from himself is still himself seeking.
So a never-ending loop.
It's almost like it reminds me of the fact that you can't escape yourself.
Right.
Because whatever escape you'll find, it's you who'll be finding the escape. You know what I mean? It's a paradox. You can't be free of yourself there, because that's all there is.
Which is why it goes back to the idea that you need to accept yourself, right?
I think
whatever kind of
that's
deficits
the only option.
And other things. Like, imagine if you just kind of gather around all your valuables and count, okay, this is how much I owe. In the same idea, right? It's like, okay, get an account of yourself. It's like, okay, what are my deficits, what are my positive traits, and these are what I have. So you deal with it, right? You work with it, and not trying to find a shortcut, or how you see this happening in wider society. People, for example, how some people get plastic surgery, right? Just because they have a lack of self-confidence in a certain way about their bodies, and they change themselves. And it's crazy, right? But people do these things, right?
Crazy, dude.
So for all the deficit that they think that they have, they are trying to overcorrect it, right? They try to use some kind of brute force sort of ways to kind of...
That's like the most damning thing, I think. Because, like, dude, I can't imagine doing that. Probably, I guess it's different for people who are in the public spotlight, because they have some kind of image to preserve, but still, even that is a self-image. So you're clinging to something which doesn't make sense. People get old.
Yeah.
People, that's what's wrong with that. There's no problem. You just, you get old, you get ugly, that's fine. Like,
bro,
what are you trying?
Look at this. I used to have more hair, bro. Look at this. It's just it's a fake kind of, and my forehead is just growing by the, it's like used to be a back.
That's true.
Hair,
so your hairline is receding.
Yeah.
Mine receded
at least I still
bit.
have hair on top. Like, it's thinner, but it happens. I don't give a shit. It's just, what are you going to do about it?
It's weird. Yeah. For me as well. Like, I started having like balding in the top. It's noticeably thinner, but I have no reaction.
No, I don't care. It's like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, what? You want me to worry about this? Why? It's like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
That's just nature and reality, and things decaying, things changing.
Yeah. I mean, if I lose hair, I'll just go bald.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's a blessing to not be, worrying about this stuff.
But you see, that's the thing. That's only because we realize that there is no point in worrying about it.
Yeah.
But some people are so concerned about their, like their appearance.
Like they're traveling to other countries to get in transplants and stuff.
Yeah, like they're so insecure about themselves that like they're like, no, I must have this fixed because if I don't have that, then other people are gonna see me as unattractive or blah blah blah. It's like, do they really care about that? Nobody give a shit. That's the truth of it, man. Like, how many people really care about you other than people who in your life that are, near, close to you? Other than that, you show off for what? Just because you get some brownie points, for like, oh, you look cool. Okay, so what? I mean, I guess for some people, that's how they make their money. So I guess they're pressured to do that, but still.
Also, the problem is a lot of it, like, doesn't look good at all.
No, that's the problem.
That's the biggest problem.
See all these Hollywood actors doing the plastic surgery, they destroy their look. If they're just aged naturally, they look good. They still look good.
Especially like the celebrities who are already attractive.
Yeah, they still
already
look
won
good.
The genetic lottery.
But when they did the plastic surgery, it's like
it just looks dumb.
It looks stupid.
Yeah,
and they all look the same. So it's like that's just now. But see how much delusion people get into, right? Like they start thinking, oh, that's just good. This is good.
I think essentially it's somebody sold it to them.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
You got sold.
They're being sold to, yeah.
But then...
Yeah, you want this. Buy this now.
But the fact that they couldn't recognize that, okay, this is actually not good,
that's the insidious nature of selling. I catch myself, every time I'm like, Like the latest example of this was with this Denko's Eden software, which is a ride because I still use it, but essentially I can't really use it at this point because they change it a couple times a month. So at this point, they changed it again. After like last update I gave you, they changed it again. They made all the previous canvases that I've built, they froze them. So I can't do nothing with them. I messaged their support. I'm like, so what is going on? You guys I have to rebuild all of this? You're like, yeah, the new canvas is all good. And so now I have to rebuild everything that I've done on their news. And this keeps happening. So I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I essentially, I signed up for it. I got sold and I'm along for the ride because I can't do nothing. Like it doesn't matter what my problems are or what my concerns are. They're just doing whatever they want.
But that's what I also find about YouTube. They keep changing stuff. They just recently changed something again, the layouts and the layouts. Like just some small stuff like the display of the, like it changed. So
well, the UI
they constantly do that. They constantly do it.
That's small updates is fine, but like I'm talking about complete structural updates that change functionality. Like it's if YouTube changed the fact that they're not doing videos anymore, and suddenly they do something else, and you paid them. Because right now it's free, right? What if you're paying and you got sold to, and then they're doing whatever they want? That's a problem. That's the nature of sales. And I find myself time and time again where I see something like, oh, this is going to be good. And then it's not good.
It's not good?
It's never good because...
You got to tempt your expectations.
Yeah, because the sales part that works, the sales is always the presentation of a better reality than it is.
Yeah.
That's just the part that pisses me off.
This is what people been finding out. Gamers found out like, never pre-order, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad I completely don't have this habit anymore. Like I never buy new games.
No.
Never.
No, never.
I wait a couple years until I see like the reviews actually saying like, okay, it looks like they fixed this shit.
Yeah. Because that's the nature of the industry, right? They oversell it. They try to sell you a demo that's not the real game, right?
Yeah.
They use some engine thing that make it looks good and stuff, and then the actual product is actually not, not as presented. So it's a bait and switch. So that happens too many times. So
so that's the problem. That's why I don't like sales, because essentially their job is to sell. Yeah, it's fine, but they do it through false advertisement a lot of the time. A lot of the time, they're putting up this image of like, it would be amazing if it was like that, but it's so rarely the case. Because in reality, to achieve that state, it takes much more time and effort to get there. And people need to secure funding. So they're like, this is what it is, but it's not what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's a problem, because how is it not a problem? It's a misrepresentation. It's lying. You're lying to people. There's no way about it. Yeah, you can justify it all you want. You need money, you need to secure funding. It doesn't change the fact that you're lying to people and you're misrepresenting stuff. And I don't know. I think at this point, any company who doesn't do that and embraces honesty, I think it would receive more support and fans. Because who wants to be lied to?
Yeah. So this is an interesting part. I just recently I watched this video talking about this psychologist. I think she's getting pretty popular these days. Her name was Martha Beck. She used to be a grew up Mormon, and the key point is she does a lot of counseling for psychology for people, for psychological issues and stuff like that. And so she herself said that she has a severe case of anxiety all her life, because she was raised Mormon, where in that religion, like, you're supposed to not show your emotions. Apparently, like, it doesn't matter happy, sad, you just be like stoic all the time. So she's holding that within her all the time. So she had this kind of developed this kind of anxiety thing. So, but constantly she's trying to coach other people how to be happy. So it's kind of like it's kind of a contradiction. So she found out that she started to kind of be real with herself. And then what she did is actually she started to do radical honesty. She told herself that, you know what, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to, no matter what the situation is, I'm going to always tell the truth. And her anxiety gone away, like totally gone away. And so she now started to tell people that you need to stop telling lies, because every single lie that you tell is not only aging you actually age a lot faster when you are lying all the time. It's not good for your mental health, because it's just constantly you're building this facade, this fake thing, and you're stressed out. Your body is like
betraying yourself too.
Yeah, your body is stressed out by the fact that you're hiding. You're just telling yourself, you're building this kind of facade.
Yeah,
it's
you're
fake.
creating incongruency, between what you want, essentially. So you're much more honest with what you want, and you're honest with people about it. And yes, it's unconventional and very few people do it. But yeah, I heard about it. I think I remember some other guy who started doing that, and like, people swear by it, essentially. It's a very radical thing to do.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. But it makes all the sense, and there's a certain amount, like it's imagine how you kind of embrace the freedom of it. It's like you embrace that as a concept, as a principle, but then it's so freeing, because like, I give myself license. I don't give a sheesh. I'm going to do it because it makes sense to me, and everybody else can figure out for themselves what this means, but this is the way to live for me, because I see no reason not to do it. This is the most logical thing to do.
Yeah, because
why would you not be honest?
And if I start thinking about it, I can start to see how much cultural ingrained, especially for people from Asia, like in our culture, it's just too much fake shit, right? Whether that's Japan, Korea, China, all the same. Like, everybody's just fake. Everybody's
I think
showing
it's a problem. Essentially, like, people are not even able. The problem is that people are not allowed to even show their feelings.
Right.
But these are real feelings that you are having. Why would you not have them?
That's why I'm trying to see, like I said to you, right? My number one policy is I don't want drama. I don't want problems. Okay. I don't want any sort of thing that are gonna weigh on my mind, So I do the best possible thing that I can do to limit my stress, basically. Like, I don't worry about anything. I try not to, because when you do that, it doesn't feel great at all. Whether that's lying to people or, it's just getting involved in all these sort of, how everyday dealings. It's very stressful, because other people lie to you, other people try to scam you, and this and that, right? Like, yeah, you got to protect yourself, but I don't overly think about it. I try to kind of limit the quote unquote, I call it drama. I use this one word, drama, but basically that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly why I don't want to engage in any kind of negotiations or anything like that. Because I don't want to, what is this?
Yeah.
So I just pay more because like, I don't give a shit. Okay, you want this more money? Like, get it. Like, it costs me less time and less nerves to just do it that way.
Right.
So I often just pay premium because that's the simplest thing. And it's like, okay, get it. Good luck.
Because, yeah,
I
you
don't
know
care.
how, exactly, that's how, you know how much, okay, this is a generality, but as a joke, it would be like, you know how Asian people get stressed out about being cheap, okay? They're trying to be saving so much money. They're stretching them out up the wazoo because it's like trying to get that little bit of, more dollars. They're trying to be cheap about it. And
Just
then
for the
end
sake
up
of it.
having big problems because, of course, nobody gonna do the quality work for cheap, okay?
Yeah.
So they end up like big headache, more work has to be done, wasted time, wasted money, but then they don't learn. There's so many cases of they keep, I want to save that money.
It's my favorite saying in Russian. It says, the cheap ones pay twice.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad is actually kind of like that. He's pretty cheap because, it's just mentality, right? Upbringing, history, whatever. But the thing is that mentality, it's kind of propagates itself too. That's the problem with it, is that this is where kind of some of the spiritual ideas really make sense to me, because it's what you embody, If you embody and behave like a wealthy, prosperous person, you are much more likely to enter that lifestyle and to maintain that lifestyle. Because for sure, if you behave like a cheapskate your whole life, in all the situations, imagine how is this conducive to you?
It's not.
I think it will keep you there. Because you will keep that mentality, like, how can I save? How can I save? Not how I can, because prosperity is not just money. That's the thing. Real treasure is time. So if you're saving yourself time by spending money, you're winning. That's
exactly
what being wealthy looks like.
Yeah. That's the mentality, They know the number one currency is time. So they try to do their best to, okay, if money can buy me that, then they do that. That's the mentality shift because they realize what's more important. But, if you grew up poor, it's such a hard switch because you're like, all your life, you're like, well, I'd be poor. I don't want to be poor again. And therefore, you're constantly thinking about the money. But sometimes, even after you get rich, old habits die hard, right? So it's harder for those folks to change because they can't mentally shift to that kind of abundance.
It's kind of like, again, it's kind of like a meta skill. You have to involve it because you need to understand what you're spending on, why you're spending on, and what you're trying to achieve. Like for me, if I'm buying like a piece of technology that I know I will be using and I will depend on it for a certain outcome, like I buy a good piece of technology. Because does that make sense? Like, for example, my dad would get these snow blowers, removing machines. And it's just a piece of plastic.
Doesn't work.
You take one look at it and you know that it's going to be broken in a season. Like, you ask yourself, like, well, what do you want from this? Do you want to be buying a new piece of plastic every year? Or do you want a reliable machine that will do it fast, do it reliably, won't break down, and will serve you for a lifetime? What do you want? Just get what you want.
Yeah.
Don't save the money. Get what you want so it solves the problem you're trying to solve.
See, tangentially, this is what I was trying to get at as well. Like, even in small things like this, the idea of being self-aware, right? It's exactly this. In the example of being aware, the bigger picture of what do I want, right? In this case, if you have a bigger picture, you realize, okay, if I spend more money, get the top line stuff, it will save me more time and money in the end. That's the mentality, right? This is in a practical application of, okay, I'm aware that, okay, I see there are all these scammers trying to sell me these cheap ass shit. I know I want to save money, but I do realize that the top line stuff is going to do exactly what I need. Therefore, I'm going to spend.
And you can prove it with simple math too. Like, this is the reason I got myself good hiking pants and good hiking boots.
Right.
And they're both on the more, hiking stuff generally. the higher end stuff is really expensive, like because
Yeah.
there's level to this always. And for the most pro hikers, the big thing is weight. So you
Yeah.
want the most light and the
Lightweight.
most durable stuff, which at this point, I mean, there's been some great advancement in materials because there's some paper thin stuff right now that is just indestructible, but it's obviously new, expensive material. So those clothes can be really expensive. They can be, I think for backpacks, I was looking at a backpack the other day,
Couple hundred.
200 American easy. So that's like a good level. But even mine, like the one I got that is not of light material, but from just a good model, good material, good design from Osprey I got a few years ago. It was like 250 Canadian, and it's expensive if you think about it, right? It's like a quarter of $1,000. But I was shopping, I was like, you know what? No, I want to get a good one because I bought a bunch of cheap ones before, and like because I wanted to have for years. And indeed, I'm seeing how it's lasting me years and nothing is happening to it.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing this is what I want
Yeah.
because I'm loving this backpack for, its actual design and construction and materials because nothing is happening to it. Within the years that it's been used, that 250 is nothing
Yeah.
in comparison to what it would be if I was just kept cycling them. They kept ripping and making troubles on the trip or something. It doesn't make sense. So it's stuff like that. If you need a good thing and you want to rely on it, it's like a good philosophy for this is it becomes seamless. So kind of like with good clothes. So if you buy clothes that are not, don't fit you well, that you don't like the material for, you're going to be constantly aware of it. That's not what you want. You want a thing to be kind of like a simplest addition to your being, where you don't even notice that it's there because it serves its function, kind of like similar with your body, with your organs. When you're healthy, you're not noticing anything. But if there's
Yeah.
problem, there's pain, you're like, now you live with the pain. Ideally, you don't want to have any sensations. That's health.
Yeah.
That means everything is working as
Everything's
intended.
working as
Yeah,
intended.
nothing requires your attention. That's how it should be.
Yeah. Which is, that just remind me of, what we've been talking about is this kind of holistic view of, because like everybody is building their own belief systems, their own sort of the worldviews, and these aspects of what they believe to be true, right? And we're all constructing this. So the idea is that you do want to construct your own worldviews, and not overly being influenced by forces outside of you, right? I mean, that's the thing. Truth is hard to ascertain, but that just means that you got to be more assiduous in terms of finding out for yourself what that means for you, constantly, because you can't trust just what other people say, because for one thing, that's their opinion. Their way of looking at things might be very different, because that's the kind of world that we're in. You see all these kind of, let's just say, even things like lifestyle choices and stuff that you make, they are individual preferences, I mean, some things are more truthful, like say material, in this case that you were talking about. The more durable material are just gonna last. Okay, that's fact, right? But how you see, the world are full of things that we don't understand, right? We understand them insofar as what sciences can tell us. Okay, this is a material. It feels like this. It has this quantity. I mean, the quality, and all these data set we have about the world. But how you interpret these data is up to you, right? No, just like we said, right? Like no scientist can just know everything. They can only provide you with certain data to kind of make your life better, I suppose, because when you have these facts, then you can kind of gauge the world in a different way, understanding more about the patterns and how the world works in a certain ways, and you can structure your life, right? You're building your life towards what makes sense to you, and nobody can convince you otherwise, nobody's telling you to believe one way or another, but that's the problem, that you have to figure it out yourself. So, and that's why we talk about stuff like this, like the philosophy, what's the best way how to live your life, right? How to, that just kind of makes sense that this is our things that we kind of question ourselves. Like, okay, yeah, what's the point of it anyway, right? And it's worth discussing because we are trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out, and and sometimes you do have to talk to somebody, be like, hey, am I crazy to think this way? Or because that's the way of the universe. Nobody can tell you why or how, but things are happening, and you just have to find how where do you fit in, like operationally. Like, no, it doesn't matter how you think about yourself, about your place in the world. You still have to figure out how you're gonna deal with all this, right? And to keep your sanity, you better have a good system by which to go by. Otherwise, you see how many cases of people are going insane, right? Because they couldn't figure it out, or they're not willing to put in the energy to figure it out. And then they just continue down the path of the least resistance, and they find themselves in trouble because the moment you stop thinking, the moment you stop analyzing, you're being too lazy, you stop caring about stuff, then that's how you go downhill. And there's nothing that can explain it away. Certain things are just true. This is why we have wisdom. This is why some understandings being passed down should be studied. They should be, because these are what people went through. And you, as a new generation, you don't know that. As you were born, if you haven't learned any of this stuff, then you're just a new player. You're a noob. You're going to fall into all the traps that,
It's best to learn on other people's mistakes if you can.
Yeah, and we're kind of forgetting that these days. It seems like a lot of people are just not interested in history. They're not learning from what happened in the past, and we're repeating them, right? We are repeating them right now.
Yeah.
All over the world, what's happening right now. So it's sad, but people have a short memory,
Yeah. So before we dive into the next topics,
what's the next joke?
Yeah, I wanted to read a couple of jokes in the previous episodes that I wrote. We have many tropes, but like some of them are more funny than others. So I've adopted this little persona that is close to the podcast's kind of spiritual, acts of spiritual vandalism, random acts of spiritual vandalism type of style. And I've been using AI to craft this quick little jokes based on the stories or topics that we've discussed. So I'm going to read a couple of them to you just to see what you think. This one was based on that car dealership experience that we once discussed that I had. It's pretty straightforward. So here it is. A car dealership is the only place on earth where a stranger hands you a pen before they finish their sentence. You haven't sat down yet, your coat is still on, you don't even know what you're buying, and there's already a document right there waiting, with a little sticky arrow pointing at the line like, here's where you make it real, buddy. Here's where your confusion becomes legally binding. And they're so warm about it. That's the part that gets me, the warmth. The guy has the energy of someone who genuinely likes you and the paperwork of someone who genuinely doesn't. Just your initials here, it just means you were present. But you sign because the room is designed for signing. The lighting, the coffee, the firm handshake. It's all set, dressing for the moment your hand moves. The entire architecture of the place is a psychological funnel aimed at 1 square inch of paper. And here's what I found out. They're not rushing you because they're busy. They're rushing you because comprehension is the enemy of the transaction. Understanding is a deal breaker, literally. If you actually read the contract, if you sat there with a highlighter and a law degree and the sense of your own rights, the whole economy of that room collapses. So the speed is a feature, the confusion is a product. They've engineered a gap between you are excited and you understand, and they live in that gap. The gap is their business model. That gap has a regional manager. I found out 3 days later that I had agreed to a warranty that covers everything except the things that break, which is, and I want to be precise here, is just a list of nouns. It covers the cup holders, the ambient lighting. The engine is described in the contract as a legacy mechanical event and is subject to conditions. Nobody can tell me what conditions, because the person who sold it to me doesn't read the contract either. He just knows where the arrows are. And that's when it hit me. That's the real punchline underneath it all. We built a civilization on documentation. Thousands of years of philosophy, law, ethics, the whole architecture of human rights, all of it pointing towards this one idea, that an agreement requires understanding. And what we actually created is a society where the agreement happens first and the understanding, if it comes at all, arrives later. Alone, at home, in bad lighting, like a letter from someone who has already taken your money and wishes you well. You didn't buy a car. You lost a legal argument to a room that never let you think.
Wow. Yeah,
Pretty spot on.
that sums us up, because the modern economy, a lot of it is just
That's the sales process, right? That's what we talked about.
Yeah, how it works is just asymmetrical information, right? They have information in which you don't have, and
But also, this again goes back to lying. That's kind of what lying is.
Yeah, and also
because if you know stuff and you're not saying it, that's lying.
And also, they try to. It's like there's so many obstacles to your understanding, right? They build all these kind of moats of. They protect their moats because that's their trade secret, so to speak. Is that because you don't understand the detail, the intricacies of all this? Because because I operate a truck, so oftentimes I think about it like I try to fix some stuff myself, right? And I try to go on YouTube, I had to go on, search it up, how to fix this. It is a hard process because some of the stuff they don't have videos for. So if you're not a mechanic, you're like, well, how do you do this thing?
Yeah.
So it's harder. You see, that's the cost, right? It costs you because you don't have the knowledge. You haven't studied the
you would need to spend your own time to figure it out.
Right. So that's how they earn money, and that's legitimate. Sometimes it's a legitimate way to earn money because you have the knowledge base and you can fix this, and then that's your job. That's how you make your money. But sometimes they utilize this asymmetrical information as the advantage to gain advantage over you because you as an average consumer, you don't have the time to read through to understand the whole process of that industry and how it works and stuff like that. So they just think that, well, you're a dummy. So you just sign and then boom, you're done because you signed it. Therefore, you agree to the agreement without understanding what it means.
The contract thing is the stuff that is essentially it's predatory. For sure, it's like that because it's one thing if you're coming to like a mechanic and they're like, there's a real situation that you're analyzing and it's something to be based on. But if you start with a contract, which is obviously created and based to the benefit the business by default, that's what you start with. That's predatory, which is, kind of the whole reason we're in that situation, because we thought that it's not possible to do that in Canada. That you can't legally sell cars without safety inspection. But nope, nobody cares about that. It's
like that joke, man. I thought we left Russia. It has always been Russia, all the way down.
Yeah. You don't leave Russia. It stays inside you.
Okay, that's how it works everywhere. Okay, just by degrees, right? What's the least worst? But I guess Canada will be, in comparison to some places, will be like, okay, it's least worst, but it still happens. Like these industries, especially cars. Yeah, it's that whole. It's a whole scam, right?
Yeah.
That's just how the industry came to be. I mean.
Essentially, you at this point, I know it's a matter of not forgetting these lessons, but you need to have a battle plan for this stuff, like an actual battle plan where you have strategies. Okay, if opponent deploys this, you're gonna have this response. You send in cavalry or something because
there are definitely people out there who's smart enough and who studied all of this stuff. So if this person go into a dealership, he knows exactly how you're gonna play it. So he's gonna.
I actually saw somebody's advice randomly online. I think they have a strategy for what to do when buying cars in dealerships because it is such a prominent, part of life, and you do need to do it, but there are different ways of doing it. And if you do it with a specific strategy, you're much more likely to get a better price, essentially, better outcome out of it. So I don't remember the whole thing, but I remember the way he would start with it is that he would go to a dealership and say, hey, I'm shopping through different dealerships right now for a car. What is the best deal you can give to me for this car? And this is a psychological essentially trick, because it now establishes this situation for the seller that, hey, you're now competing with all the dealerships. For you to make this sale, you need to compete on the price level for this client. This is the ground, versus me coming there's like, oh, this car costs $16,000. Okay, where do I sign? It's dumb because I don't like negotiating. But this at least creates that premise, with low effort, which is what I like.
You set the limit to how much they can fleece you, right?
Yeah, but you open the floor for them to give you a deal, because obviously the price that's on the car, that's not a deal, right? So they will need to do something for you now. It puts the ball in your court, like, you do it. I don't want to buy a car from you. I want to buy a good deal,
Yeah.
So I really like that. So I'm gonna try something like that.
It's like playing chess, right? Imagine the dealership are like some level chess master, and you are just a noob, like trying to play chess. They know every move.
Yeah, they're
gonna destroy you, right? But if you are also a chess master, that's where the battle comes, because you both know where each other knows,
tricks,
right?
The tricks.
So you have as much information as they do, and therefore they don't have an advantage over you, and therefore they will play more fair, because they realize.
Seriously comes down to like life experience. Essentially, you've been in this situation, you know how it goes, so these tricks don't work on you. You know what to expect. And it's that's why that generally you do want more life experience, because you're more seasoned that way. You know how things can be, and you're better prepared for them. Learning the chess right now, it's like it's endless. It's crazy. It's just this board with a few of these pieces. But the amount of things you need to be aware of is crazy, because at any given situation, the level of analysis is essentially infinite. Ideally, you'd run a bunch of algorithms for each move in order to evaluate, is there a threat to this piece? Will there be a threat if I move this piece there? What to all of the pieces, You have to run all of this simultaneously at all times. But it's kind of representative of the whole reality like that. Because ideally, of course, you'd be aware of all these things. Like, imagine if you did have the option of, say if you're getting a gig or getting a job, ideally you need to know all the risks. Like, what kind of personality does this client have? Will they be an asshole to me? Is this worth my time? Will we be wasting my time? Will it be causing problems? Ideally, you'd want to know all that information. It's just for you to get that information is itself work. But if you had some kind of a way to analyze things, for example, if you were familiar with psychology, and if you were able to quickly evaluate people, which is possible to do, if you're a specialist, if you invest the time and develop that skill, you would be doing like that. You would be like reading, I see that person is exhibiting this feature, that means that they're unstable or something, and it would be such a big red flag that you're it's too much of a risk. No. And then we do stuff like this subconsciously, I'm sure, but still.
Yeah, that's definitely a skill. It just remind me of Slow Horses, Jackson Lamb, the character. He's a master of that. It's like constantly he reads a room. He's like, okay, I see something is wrong, and he figures it out. A normal person will be like, they don't see anything,
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the experience, because he's being a spy. Like, you need to be aware of all the things that are out of. Yeah,
it's the skill, and it's also intelligence, because you need to be really smart in order to register all these things and put them together, right? Because this person is like this, and because everything is information. And if you learn what the person is, you figure out who they are, kind of at their core, more or less, right? The kind of character they are. And you read the situation. Okay, it looks like they're frowning. Okay, it looks like there's a bottle of this in the corner. Looks like they were arguing. Plus two, plus two, plus two, plus two. With this guy, it means this happened. It's kind of like chess, essentially.
I love it in that show, because I just love seeing Jackson figure out the fuck up. Like, they're trying to lie to him because they fucked up. They were trying to hide it, right? But Jackson knows about these guys.
Yeah. Essentially, he knows the psychology. He knows the human psychology so well, because this is a young schmucks, dude. They think they're smart. They think they know what. No, they're transparent to him.
Yeah,
because he's seen it all.
Love the process of him going to the situation and start figuring out, okay, this is fucked up. I
like how he just lays it out in front of him just to let them know how how
Yeah.
silly they are to him, how
Yeah.
transparent they are. It's hilarious. I mean, that's an older, smart person is a danger.
Yeah. I
It's a
mean, that's a
danger.
good characterization for that
Yeah.
show. How, but these are real people. They exist where they have so much experience that they see it miles away. They like before you realize, they already see it. So, but that's invaluable. That's something that you
Yeah.
can't really
But
trade. No
that's
matter how much time you are trying to learn
yeah.
it, you won't have it without actual.
Yeah, people like that kind of scare me, dude, because like that you realize they exist, but I mean, compared to you, to average Joe, they're like a predator, and
Yeah.
you are the gazelle,
Yeah.
because
It's like
there's
a
nothing.
different. It's like from different dimensions. So
Like their arsenal is surpasses you. Like in terms of what if their will, like they can project your will on you, and you will not be able to even see what's going on.
you see, this is the quandary. I feel that now that I've been through it with the college, for example, with education, I can see how hard it is for younger folks these days. Because think about it, right now, degrees are almost worthless now, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
But then how do you
yeah. It's
even try to advise younger
yeah,
folks
the
to?
paradigm is just like it's crumbling, because anything you pick right now to study, even if it's just going to be 2 years, by the time you graduate, it's not a thing anymore. Even that's
Yeah.
what people have been seeing.
So I keep thinking about this because as I get older, I definitely see, obviously, you see the mistake that you made from the past, and then you realize how naive you were and but then it's like, okay, hypothetically, if I were to go back in time and convince myself why you shouldn't do a certain thing, how do I even go about it? Because
No, you can't.
at
You
your
can't
level of
translate
understanding
it.
then,
Of course.
you won't understand that argument. It's like, what do you mean? Because at the time, you just seem to think that this is like a sure
People,
way.
yeah, people don't listen. Like the arrogance that comes with youth, that like you think that you know stuff. It's like a bridge that you have to cross through real life experience, because
Yeah,
yeah, it happens to all of us. It's just the problem is that you don't even know what to listen to and who to trust. That's the
right.
biggest problem, because that's kind of what it was with my trading and investment attempts. Because, well, you start with the premise that, well, I'll try to figure it out, because you don't know how it's going to go, but you have to be optimistic. You have to do an earnest effort. But the wisdom and statistics are saying, like blah 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 blah, 90% people fail. And you hear that statistics, because of course I heard it in the beginning and everything, but you're like, well,
I'm different.
surely I can overcome these odds. I'm a smart person. And then you
Yeah,
realize that you're not as smart as you
yeah.
thought you were.
It's
But then why would you trust it? Like how would you, because it almost feels like giving up before you even start when you approach these things. So I think it's all a process of learning who you are until you like had enough experience. Like, okay, I know that I can't do this. I know that I have to weigh my risks and investments better. You kind of develop this skill set. And I don't think you can forego that. I don't think that's an
yeah.
option. You do
So
have to learn on your own experience.
I mean, imagine you're a sailor going out to sea.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot prevent storm from happening, right? You know that there might be a chance that you're going to encounter a storm, meaning you just have to know how to deal with it by having enough knowledge and tools and kind of preventive measures, like measures against, to endure such a storm. So like it's all about preparedness, right? That's about only thing you can do. Same thing, that's the example. Basically, in trading, same idea. Like you don't know where the market is gonna go. I mean, there's projections, but that doesn't mean it's 100%. So if you just go in raw dog, no like downside protection, whatever, then highly likely you're gonna fail, right? You're gonna crash real hard
Yeah.
because yes, you might have a moonshot. That could happen. Some people do get lucky, but it's such unmitigated risking their entire funds to get that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's a multidimensional problem, because essentially when you're starting, and if you get lucky for a couple of trades, because you're a trader. You want to keep trading because you're not like, you didn't get millions of dollars in a trade. You can't do that unless you have a lot of capital from the get-go. So your goal is not to win this trade. Your goal is to be a profitable trader perpetually, long term.
Yeah, more wins
which is
than
a
losses.
completely different game. It's like, okay, I really got that trade. No, it's not the trade that you are trying to master. You're trying to master the trading. And that's a completely different approach. And you don't see that when you're starting up. Because all you were concentrated on in the beginning is like, every trade has to win. And that's not possible. That's physically not possible. But to understand that, again, I learned a lot about, through this process by learning a lot of theory and trying a lot of stuff, but to internalize it and to really guide it, your whole trading and mindset and your strategy. I mean, again, what I do now, like these days, is barely do anything, but I definitely want to concentrate just to index funds and long term, because that's the simplest and the most risk-free and the most statistically sensible thing to do. But I didn't want to come to this conclusion beforehand, before I thought like, well, better options are available. It's possible.
I mean, everybody, when they're young, they're like, I want to get rich quick, right?
Yeah,
Everybody went through that process. Like, yeah, I want to get rich quick. And why do I want these low yield stuff for like 20, 30 years? Like, why? Like, if I can get it now, that's the gambler mentality, right? And every kid done that. I've done that. We all done that. We all think that, oh, what if I bet on this? There was one time I bet
just
like
this wishful thinking.
Yeah, I bet on this. It's stupid, but like I bet on this. It's called Cloud MD. I think they were doing at the time. They were one of those that started to use AI initially for medical information and stuff like that. Like, only because I read it on Reddit. I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a moonshot. I spent like $1,600 on it, and that one got delisted. Literally, anybody whoever invested in that lost their money because they couldn't turn things around. It was hemorrhaging money, and apparently they got delisted. So meaning that I don't even know what that business is now. It's probably bankrupt or something. But that's how stupid it was. Like, no due diligence. It's like, oh, people are saying this one's going to be, I know it's a moonshot, but
this is, again, you got sold.
I got sold.
And it happened to me multiple times as well. I'm still holding those bags because they didn't get delisted for some reason. They just keep going, whatever they're doing. But it was the same thing. And how silly is it? Because, again, you're just listening to some stranger's words, and they make sense. They seem to be in logical order, but that's not an analysis. That's not anything. That's just propaganda.
That's just gambling. You're just like, I like red, so I bet on red.
Yeah.
That's the same.
And I was like, wow, that's so stupid. But how? But you had this thinking at some point, because essentially you want it to be that simple.
Yeah, to be like, boom, one
but
button.
Reality is not that simple. Even if you have a most educated guess and you do some kind of diligence and you compare the markets, the trends, the competition,
doesn't matter.
Still such a gamble.
Yeah. There were people in that same example. There were people who were doing the D&D, and they were thinking that this was, but even they couldn't foresee that this company was, maybe they were hiding something behind the scene that you don't see from the reports.
The level of information that you have as this investor, it's to know what's real information, what's not, what is relevant information, what's not. I don't see how you do it. You do need to have formal education, I think, for that. So there's another reason that, which is, I mean, I understand why people are saying that stock market is a scam. I do understand it. Like, it's literally like when you analyze all these things that can happen with your money that you earned, with your actual sweat, tears, and time, that can just go to someone else because they convinced you to do it. That sounds like a scam.
Yeah, it's at least you can say that it's very easy for you to get scammed in that. It's like the ocean, right? There's so many predators out there, right? That's just the ocean. But like, if you go into it, you better be careful. I mean, you better, somebody is gonna try to eat you for lunch, Yeah,
so, but in this case, there's like actual sharks in the ocean who are saying like, no, come here. It's really nice and warm over here in this spot. You want it, but then they eat you.
Yeah, I was watching some video talking about, and it's very interesting because they are like, if you actually study the stock market, it is an ecosystem. There are these scalpers, like they watch the movements and they trap you and make you lose money. Like that's what they call it. They are sharks. They are literally like predatory sharks waiting there in the market. When they see the signal, they're forcing these retails to basically sell at a loss because they were squeezing them, like there's a short squeeze, in such example. There are these, so again, there are whales, there are sharks, there are all kinds of creatures within the stock market, it's
Yeah,
very interesting how
an
those
ecosystem over there.
behaviors
But
manifest.
that's where like the only way I see it right now that might be able to win is to use something like the Martingale's strategy, which is it's kind of like an impossible strategy. It's essentially for it to succeed, you need an infinite amount of money, and it will succeed then. So if you had, but that means that you can do extremely small trades. So very small trades. So like not thousands of dollars, right?
Couple
But
hundreds.
hundreds, and then maybe you can stay afloat and long term too. So long term, years. But that requires is essentially you're going to have so many trades running in so many ways that you have to constantly be aware of where you are and which direction you're flowing going, that it's like I don't want to manage that. First of all, that
Yeah.
sounds like a headache. And yeah, these days, like I arrived at the conclusion that it's another game to play, and I just don't want to. I don't want to sit in front of the charts for hours at a time because I spent years doing that. I spent years where it was like, in addition to everything else that I'm doing, right? Like jobs, like,
Yeah.
reading arts and everything. I'm like doing the charts, and I
Oh
realized
my
like,
God.
nah, you know what? It's not work. It's not possible.
So that's how I feel now. Like doesn't matter what age you are in. Like I think the best approach is like figure out what you require, what kind of lifestyle you want, what kind of job that actually fit you. That's more important than say how much money you're gonna get from this.
Yeah.
Because some jobs are not worth it. Like yes, you
Yeah.
get lots of money, but the amount of headache you have to deal with, the amount of stress and stuff like I don't think is worth it ever.
Yeah.
Right? So you do have to make that decision for
Yeah.
yourself. Like, okay, what's more important? Is that the money or the trade-off? Like, what's the trade-off? And you do have to think about if that is indeed worth it. Because to me,
Yeah, because some
like
people may like it, they will thrive in all
some
these
people, yes,
high-paced, high-stress
high
environment. There's
stake, yeah,
psychology that will work for it, but that means they will enjoy it on some level. And I think that still has to be the measurement. You can't really force yourself to do what you hate because that's going to
yeah.
be the worst thing for you because your mental health will suffer. And once that goes, like nothing else matters.
So meaning that you have to have an internal pressure gauge, or
Yeah.
some kind of sensors within you. In this case, is what we're talking about. This kind of meditative self-awareness basically is that kind of gauge. It's a kind of measurement device that kind of measures your stats. How much pressure can you take, or how much would you think that you can fit within a certain environment, right? And I think a lot of people just blindly walk into a situation without understanding the true magnitude of what they're dealing with. Just like the case your example of the dealership. It's like, yeah, the water is deep. In those situations, like you have you walk into it. It's an ambush. Were slaughtered, but that's the cause of not having, those information. And
Yeah, it's the information and it is experience, but that just kind of shows you because there are way too many there's so
variables
many
and
new experiences, so many new environments. I mean, with jobs specifically, like that's every job. Every job you don't know what you're walking into.
yeah.
It can be whatever on paper. It's never like it's on paper. That's the crazy part, because you only once you start working, you understand like, oh, that's the people.
It
Oh, that's the
happens
culture. That's the process. That's the norms.
happens every day with me, with
Yeah.
my job. I can try to estimate, given my experience, how long a job will take, but it's never like 100% accurate. There are times where like I
Yeah, of course.
misjudge. I just like, oh, shit, this actually takes a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be. but that's just how things are, you know? Like you cannot
Yeah,
be.
because how are you gonna do it? Like, what's your process? Like, it's so rough that it's never accurate. This is why, like, in my industry and in the project management I've done for software development, I quickly came to the conclusion because a lot of the approaches there, they're very big on estimates. So you do like, okay, let's estimate how long this take.
But
So
there's
because
no
we can
way to
track it,
measure
right?
it.
Exactly. It's like, so we can track it, right? It's like we can project, make plans. And I very quickly realized that it's so useless that it's just detrimental to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because if essentially you're spending so much time on this estimation that accomplishes nothing, because it doesn't matter what you estimated. Once you start doing a thing and it takes the amount of time it takes, there's nothing you can do about it. So it doesn't matter what you estimated. So for a couple projects, I was able, because I had the freedom to do so and authority to do so, I eliminated the whole thing altogether. It was amazing, dude. It was perfect. So if you can't avoid doing it, it's just a waste of time.
Yeah, you're just
If
guessing.
it's not a factor.
At that point, just
yeah,
guessing.
you're guessing, and you're like, and you're trying to align expectations. Like, and I would do like, this is where like the philosophy actually helped me, because I think I'm naturally kind of like a philosopher a little bit, because I would convince people that way. It's like I would explain it to them. It's like, look, we can, because sometimes it involved clients, and clients pay for it all the time, and I would literally explain to them, listen, we can spend your money right now estimating this thing for the next few days, or we can spend it building it.
That's a good
What do you
argument.
want?
That's
What
a
do you
good.
want?
That's a good one. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, there you go. Because like, who gives a shit how long it takes? If we both understand that it's important and it needs to be there, it doesn't matter how long it takes. That's what you want it to be, right? Yeah. Well, let's just build it. It's not going to be 17 years, right? We're going to finish it soon. It's going to be a couple weeks to 1 week, whatever it's going to be. Let's just get through it. And it makes all the sense in the world. This is another reason I dread working in this industry again, because most people and companies, they don't understand this.
Yeah.
They're like big on this
Give me a
estimation
timeline. Give me a
and
timeline.
prioritization
Yeah.
and timelines. I'm like, for what? So what are you going to do with it? What is this for? What is this solving for anybody?
If anything, it only creates undue pressure on because you got a deadline.
Exactly.
Right?
And all of it is artificial. And that's the part that bothers me the most. Even like with this little project I'm managing for my friend, right? I told you that I immediately, when we started it, I'm like, okay, here's the schedule, here's the timeline, here's the plan, here's the checklist. Nobody gives a shit about none of it. What dictates is people's availability. And if somebody's not available for 2 weeks, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where I think I changed it this time, maybe too much at this point, that I just don't care enough about about driving a result. But in that industry, you're supposed to be driving people to do it. But to me, that's like slave driving. That's like berating people for it. No, you do it faster. What is that? What do you mean faster? Like, is that, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to my mind. Because if I meet with you and we're discussing, okay, there's a job to do, and I think I'm going to, and you ask me like, okay, when are you going to do your task? I'm going to tell you, okay, maybe I'll do it. Like, I never have a problem with it. I actually say like, okay, it's going to take me 2 days. And always by the end of 2 days, I have it done. Because I just do everything possible to make it done in 2 days. Because that's what we discussed. Because that's the simple possible reality to do. Because all the other options, they create more bullshit. They create more problems for everybody. And now I have to talk to more people and I have to spend more energy, Yeah, sometimes a bit more complex, but usually you should be able to break down a task to, to some kind of proximate reality and just proceed with that.
Just think that in actual practice, right, with people is a lot more complicated because people have their own self-desires, their selfish desires, what they want. And of course, in a given environment, when you don't have a structure, a lot of people, or at least the structure is too vague, so to speak, when it comes to corporate, right? It's such a
Yeah.
top-down propaganda, brainwashing you about the corporate culture, this and that, and talk to you about the company mission, this and that. But then there's like, it has no true incentive to the person's working it. And that's why you have these corporate, like, people are lagging off, right? They're just like, okay, I'll just send an email. That's it. I'll wait for a reply for 3 days and then we'll see how that goes, right? Instead of actually working and finishing the work that they have to do.
Yeah, I guess that's a separate issue, the issue of motivation and personalities. Because I've met hardworking people, I've met lazy people, I've met people who just waste everybody's time. Yeah, it's so strange, dude. I don't know. To me, like, I think I am, like, I'm lazy on a level where I want the possible simplest way to do anything.
Yeah. Which is the smart way. Which is the smart way.
I think it's smart because why wouldn't you want it that way?
Yeah.
But so many people are not. It's either that or essentially, I think my understanding is a lot of the time is kind of too simplistic because I'm not considering, everything that there is to consider. But still, that's my approach because this way I approach it that way, like in terms of I literally say to people or ask people like, okay, we need to get this done, let's not stray away from all the other things. Let's stick on this mission. And then I give them the opportunity to kind of like flag like, okay, there's an additional factor here. We need to figure out this. So I let people kind of use their expertise and their perspective to inform me. But still, my approach is that let's not complicate things if we don't have to. And what's a good example of this? Let me see. It's kind of like interpretation. So I would run into this problem with talking to my mom a lot, for example, because she would just like offer her interpretation. It's like, what if this, and this? And I'm like, but that's not the case. That's just you worrying and you were saying stuff. It's like essentially the wisdom of let's cross that bridge when we get there. Because there's only, I guess it's like a struggle between facing what is and trying to prepare for potential reality. But to me, I don't know, the potential reality may be anything. It's very difficult to know what it's going to be. It's really planning for it or just living in what is. Because reality is always like what now is. You can't predict what's going to be the next moment. Like I'm really arriving more and more at that. Either that is the case or I am so lazy at this point that I'm just not willing to consider even 1 or 2 steps ahead, Because
dude, there's so many things going on at one time in the whole world. Like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, man. There's too many actors playing their own thing. Yeah, you can't project any. I mean, look at the current timeline right now. What's happening in the world? It's crazy. Like you can't even predict any of it. There's no, and the funny thing is people are betting their money on it now. There's a whole market, right? The idea of betting results. People are just gambling with world events now. Like that's how crazy things are developing in 2026. This wasn't a thing back a few years. Right now, it's a huge industry. People are just it's like betting horses. Back in the day, people bet horses. Now people bet like,
it's like,
is a war going to happen? Is a war going to happen on this date? Right? It's like, and then you have insider traders, right? They know something about it and they bet way before things happen. And boom, they got millions of dollars just like that.
It's another scam, okay?
It's
another way. There's so many of these scams, it's all like, so much of reality is just people trying to scam other people. It's crazy, dude.
And now it's just out in the open. Let's just bet on what happens. Now that's what's happening. It's just like, yep, just straight up. No need to make
just
any
another
excuses.
Way to get people to put their money. It's
It's
like
the
more older I get, the more I realize that
nothing is new under the sun.
Essentially, your main job as a person is to not be scammed.
No.
At any point, because it happens all the time.
Like lessen the amount of time you get scammed, because I don't think you can actually prevent yourself from being scammed.
I don't know if it sounds too paranoid, but essentially I would recommend, if I was to go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would very vehemently tell that person like, hey, everything is a scam, okay? Everything. Approach every situation, every new situation you find yourself in, look for how you're getting scammed, okay? Because you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it because it's not, nothing is happening like you won a prize, really? I think that only happened to be like once, where I legitimately entered some sweepstakes in some contest online. I actually won a PC. It was my first, I think, PC when I switched from a laptop to my own personal PC. I actually won in some sweepstakes. It actually was real somehow. That's the only way where it happened. But besides that, it's like anytime you're in a situation where there's an exchange of some kind,
What's the
consider yourself
catch?
like there. Consider yourself being, the target,
Yeah, it's like, what's
because
the
there are
catch?
existing systems whose sole job is to target
Yeah,
objectives, and win material. But material comes from other people, from somebody.
yeah, that's what
So,
happens. A lot of people get scammed because there's a whole industry of scammers. All kinds of different tactics that they get you.
but that's not just material. That's the biggest thing. It's not just material. It's like, as we just started delving into, it's spiritual also. It's ideas. It's like, it's all tied to the same thing. It's somebody's working you for some kind of outcome that they benefit. It's on organization level. It's on the fact that, your data is being collected, that's why their data leaks, because somebody's seeking that. Somebody's benefiting from collecting that information about real world, real people, and compiling it, studying it, basing it, mining it for insights, etc. So they can design a better product, so they can sell you
It's
a better thing.
all a Ponzi scheme if you think about it. The whole idea is just this is why it leads to kind of almost dangerous territory when you think about it. It's almost everything it can be. This is why some of these conspiracy theories, they're not exactly wrong, but you could be thinking yourself into that type of situation where you're like, yeah, everything is a scam. Everything is, you do get paranoid, but it's not that it's untrue, but it's also not completely true. So that's the reality of where you can't distinguish how
It's
much is
pattern
it real.
recognition. If you're seeing the patterns, and if you're seeing this, like, okay, this and this move results in this outcome several times, it's the reason it happens like that, right? There's means that there's some kind of law or rule that governs this process, and if you're able to notice it, yeah, that's reality. That's what reality is. It's predictable outcome based on the same steps. That's why the stereotypes are there. This is why and a lot of it are jokes. Like, a lot of humor is based on stereotypes, which is one of the other topics as well. So we'll delve into that eventually, because it's a lot of fun. But for example, there is a stereotype or a fun joke of a young guy going to a strip club and thinking that the stripper likes him. That's a thing that happens to a lot of men, because everybody is that young and that naive,
Yeah.
because they're saying like, whoa, this woman is like really paying me a lot of attention. She's so nice. She must like me. Not understanding like, okay, that's literally her job. That's how she
Yeah.
makes money. So she's doing it on purpose. And it's one thing if you're like aware of that, but if you're not, it's a joke. It's like an actual joke based on this, because people do that. People like, you don't understand, bro. She's really into me.
Man, remind me of Ruddy Ho, bro, from the
Oh,
Slow Horses. That
yeah,
one was so funny. They
that
played
guy
with
is
that.
so oblivious. To be so smart yet so dumb at the same
Yeah.
time with a human world, right? That's kind of like,
Some
yeah,
people aren't like that. They have no clue about that aspect of society,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I probably affected by that as well, because it's like big part of the social cues and social skills, right? And also not being experienced. So if you're not aware of social dynamics, intersex dynamics, how different strategies, there's so much stuff to know, right? Like, women and men have their own sexual strategies, which guides their behavior. And if you've gone enough through that, if you studied it, you'll see that behavior. Again, you'll see the patterns. So if you meet a new person and you're actually seeing certain behaviors and you're able to identify them, you're like, oh, they're like doing this, which means they have this intent. Again, like a detective, you're putting cues together and you
Yeah.
understand, like, oh, if you do this, this, and this, that means they're doing that. It's like that. But this awareness plus identification, it only comes from experience plus study, plus this analysis of anything in reality.
Yeah, it's all patterns. One can summarize everything in life as patterns, right? And you just have to recognize what they are and act accordingly. But then the question is, well, we only have so much energy, to
Yeah.
spend on that.
Yeah.
And for me, this is personally, it's like when we talk about what you just talked about, like say, in terms of relationship. For some reason, I'm too lazy to get into it, where I have to analyze what she's thinking and then what she wants from me, and then what if I guess wrong, and that type of. It's
And
like
you
I'm
will.
okay with all the other stuff, but like when it comes to people though, like for me, that's a problem for me. It's like
It's the games.
I don't want to
Because it's
guess.
all
I don't want to.
games.
Yeah, I know, and I recognize that, but it's like, do I want to spend time doing like guessing? Like, okay, is this it's right. You're playing chess with her, right? You're like, okay, now I'll make this move. I make it sound like nothing was wrong and blah blah blah. But in the end, I actually have a motive for why I move it this way, and then she counterplays. Like
And it's
that's
just gonna
kind of
be.
how it is. But then it becomes cynical. Then I become cynical. It's like, okay, so we're just playing chess. Then
Yeah.
this is just all we're doing, which is it
Yeah.
is what it is. But when the illusion kind of falls away, it feels like, well, there's no point. Like we're just doing this
Yeah.
thing. Like we
We're
recognize
trying
it's
to
not
game
for
each
real.
other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, it, just because she actually
Well,
like me, where I like her in return. It's just like,
yeah, I mean, that's the challenge of relationships that ideally you would have, but I don't know why it doesn't happen. Like, I guess because a lot of things have to match, in your personality, as in maybe background and culture and political views, humor, intellect, a lot of the stuff have to match. Because yeah, otherwise it's like two intelligences, they meet and they recognize, oh, okay, I kind of get this person is like this, but then like in which situation do you both like each other enough where you are essentially completely open and you are vulnerable and you're dependent and you're respectful and you're loving? Like what has to happen for both people to be like that? There's a certain amount of like openness and respect and kind of non-attachment. Like it's paradoxical. Like I don't know what it is. I
yeah,
don't know how it happens. Because yeah, anytime you start thinking about it, yeah, it's just like in any case, it's two people, two strangers who don't know each other and who don't trust each other are trying to like,
make it work.
are you
To
like, is this, can I,
okay,
it's a
like,
lot of uncertainty.
yeah, I know for a fact that there is an aspect of overanalyzation on my part. I understand that because you can't really fit everything onto that sort of like, oh, I understood this as a mechanism because
Yeah.
people are complicated. They're not exactly as described. You can't just use some kind of theory to say, oh, well, this happens all the time. No, it doesn't. There's also different different variables and stuff. So I understand that's the case. Like you can't just describe like, oh, they're all gonna act like this because of different people, different they have different personalities, different characterizations, different So right, it's dependent on the person. But sometimes I guess when you do kind of put it in that mental process of like running it through the scenarios and what have you, then like it does become like that seems like a chore. And given my kind of how I go about life is just no drama, then I guess I have to be opt out of that because that seems like a lot of work for that, But I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just hey, you do you, right? So that just kind of what it turned out to be for me is like, nah, I kind of probably don't want to go into all of that. But
Yeah. Well, let's just see, like, even if one of these jokes that we're revisiting some of the existing topics kind of can launch us into a whole direction, which is still, it's fine, it's great, but I don't know. Yeah, let's see where we can cut it off so we don't revisit all the same tropes. But I'll read one more and then we can go into whatever direction really, besides what I also have on some of my list. Because some of these topics, I mean, we did talk about them before, but they're so fun to still dig into because they do point to a lot of topics and insights that are very pertinent to everyday reality, and they're still representative of what's happening in reality these days because they're all still fairly fresh. We've only been doing this for 5 or so months, so all of this is still technically pertinent, viable information. This one is also from one of the earlier episodes, I think. It's called Cognitive Smog. The hardest part of being alive right now isn't the cost of living, it's the cost of listening. Because everywhere you go, someone is explaining something they don't understand with the full confidence of a person who has never once been wrong about anything. And they're not whispering, they're not tentative, they're committed. Chest out, eye contact, the specific energy of a man who watched a 40-second video and is now prepared to restructure your worldview. And you have to stand there, you have to receive it. That's the grind nobody talks about. Not the commute, not the bills, the daily cognitive tax of being a reasonably informed person in a room full of people who are absolutely certain about things they're absolutely incorrect. It's like being a doctor at a dinner party where everyone has already diagnosed themselves online and they just need you to validate the prescription they wrote themselves at 2 a.m. You can't correct them. That's the other part. Because if you correct someone who is confidently wrong, you become the problem. You become difficult. You become the person who just can't have a conversation, as if the conversation was going fine, as if the accuracy was the rude interruption. So you learn to smile, you develop the smile. It's the smile of a person absorbing misinformation in real time and choosing, for the sake of the social contract, not to say the thing, just processing it, filing it, adding it to the archive of things now know that other people believe. And the archive is enormous. Here's where it gets dark, because I used to think the problem was ignorance. Ignorance I can work with. Ignorance is just an empty room. You can put furniture in it. But this isn't ignorance. This is ignorance that has decorations. This is ignorance with opinions about the decor. This is a man who doesn't know how vaccines work explaining to you with genuine passion why he does. And the really unbearable part, the part that keeps me up at night staring at the ceiling like a man who has made terrible choices about who to talk to, is that confidence is contagious and accuracy is not. Nobody ever walks out of a conversation going, that guy knew exactly what he was talking about. I'm going to reconsider my life. That doesn't happen. But walk into a room where everybody is wrong in the same direction, and within 20 minutes, you're nodding. You're nodding and you don't even know why. The consensus gravity just pulls you in. That's not stupidity spreading, that's physics. And we built a media system, a whole gleaming algorithmic trillion-dollar media system, specifically engineered to make sure the most confident voice always reaches the most people first. We didn't create the information age, we created a volume age. And the loudest thing isn't the truth. It's someone who almost read an article telling you exactly what it meant. Yeah. That one
feels less like a joke, but like an actual, just a statement of truth, man. This is
Yeah.
like, I mean, jokes are true. Like, it's almost like, well, you're right. It's like a cone, right? The idea that it's not exactly for humor purposes, other than just telling you, well, yeah, this is what's. I mean, it can be deemed funny how people actually act this way.
Yeah, it's a slightly different format. So it attempts to make a joke out of it, but it's still taking it's kind of like it's still mixed with philosophy a little bit and analysis of the culture. So it's attempting to make the joke, but this is where like it makes me think that the premise of the joke has to be great. If it's not exactly punchy on its own, like the seed of it, it's not as funny. And obviously this is quite long for the full joke. So it's not exactly a joke. It's kind of like something in between an article and a joke and a philosophical deliberation, because it has some of this. It tries to do some of these punchlines as a joke, right? Like the ending, I think the ending where it is doing it, but the premise is kind of too long. So the premise makes it more into an article than a bit. Because doing all of this, not like reading this out loud right now, it's too long for a joke. like a proper joke, like if a comedian was to do it, it needs to be much more condensed. Because if you watch like proper comedians, the job is to get to the punchline as soon as possible, right? Because the punchline is supposed to be the where you laugh. So the premise, it needs to be short. So if this was developed into a proper joke, yeah, you'd need to compress the premise by much more.
Yeah. But, the idea, it is, it is true. It's been, maybe that's part of the psychological kind of group dynamic that happens with people as well. Like the one that display the most confidence, even though they're wrong, people still tend, they'd still believe that person because he seems like he knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
right? So that's a kind of what do you call that? Psychological, not biases. What do you call that? It was a blind spot, I guess some people have. It's just like it's more likely a person will believe somebody who has the confidence, who shows the confidence of, when they
Yeah.
are saying something. I think people are just psychologically in tune, more or less, to that kind of behavior where, like, oh, you're more likely to believe them. Because if you have a person who is actually knowledgeable, but their delivery is bad, then you tend to like, no, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't judge it because you don't know the
Exactly.
truth of the information. And if the person is just like, stuttering all the time and then trying to tell you this thing, but then he's not really feeling like he
They're
knows what he's
not a
saying.
communicator. Yeah, that's the
Right.
most
So
frustrating part to me because I mean, ideally, everybody in the world would be a good communicator. That would solve so many problems. Because in reality, we have people who know and understand exactly the whole thing, but they're not able to easily communicate it. Like they can't just be in a conversations and like say everything that needs to be said, right?
communication is hard. It is definitely it's a really skill that people should master. I mean, we all should master it, that's for sure. But yeah, it is hard because think about it, right? How many people can actually be teachers? I think being a teacher takes a specific kind of,
That's a
not
certain
just
skill for sure.
certain skills. Yeah, it's not just mentality, but like understanding how you understand information. Because some people, yeah, they understand that information perfectly, but only in their head. They couldn't translate it to other people and make it
Yeah.
understandable for other people.
Yeah, you really need to listen to the other person and evaluate, like, see, really paying attention to, like, are they understanding it? Or, like, if not, watching for cues for, like, where is the gap, you know? It requires a whole level of awareness where you're really paying attention to that other person and you can, like, evaluating constantly. Do they seem like they understand everything I'm communicating? It's, yeah, it's a whole other level of presence that requires from you. And it also made me think that I'm not sure if I'm good at explaining stuff. I think I'm okay because if if when it comes to when it matters, because I've worked with a job where I had to prepare requirements, and the whole thing about requirements is that they need to be 100% clear. So I did spend a good amount of time studying and trying to perfect how to do it. So eventually I got it into pretty good shape where I would literally have just a list, like a numbered list of things like this needs to happen. If this happens, this needs to happen, I almost put it into like a programming format, but using natural language. And it was very effective because people gave me feedback. It's like, this is really helpful. Like this makes it simple to understand what we need to program, because kind of in reality, everything is like that. If this happens, this happens. No? So if
Right.
you're able to describe it that way,
Yeah.
if I get the salary, I need to put 5% into investment account. It's just everything is a condition and everything is a little trigger that triggers the action. But to me, it's just fairly logical. The problem is that there are people who are not logical. And to them, this doesn't work. And to me, this doesn't make sense because I'm like,
Yeah.
to me, this is just
The most
pure,
obvious,
clean information that is just, but some people's mind,
they work very differently.
it works differently. It's like different information is important to them, like they're dealing with a different facet of reality, which is again, like to me, it reinforces the idea that we all literally live in our own subjective realities because of that. Just because of the filtering and thinking about it
Yeah.
is so different.
But I just feel like, we definitely need to have this more logical underpinning for all our social dealings though, because that's kind of the basis by which we can reach a consensus, because you can't just, not everything is, I mean, yes, how you perceive it is subjective, but when you have to deal with other people, you gotta have a base by which you can build stuff, right? And not just be, oh, just because I feel it this way. There are facts that one has to face. This is why in the job that you're saying, right, project management, especially for all these corporate environments and what have you, you do have to deal with the fact that you're building some things, and are
Dude, it's so complex because essentially the biggest dichotomy is this logical information and emotions. And some people live by emotions. And to me, this is how strangely it manifests. So like if you're in a company and you're talking, and to me, like the way I would manage a project, yeah, like this is the information, this is the facts, right?
yeah.
It looks like we need to build this program. The first feature that makes the most logical sense, like user needs to be able to log in. Okay, let's just build that. That's what I would do. But there would be another person who saved the opposite psychological type of me, and they're like dealing with on emotions. They will come in, all right, folks, I'm so happy you're here. We're all so awesome. We're doing so great. I love you all. It's all emotions. And they're not gonna even have any logical information. And what will happen is someone else on the team who is able to deal with logical things, they will come in and they will say, okay, looks like we need to do this, this, and this. But these are two approaches that I literally seen in real life where people do this, which to me is mind-boggling, because I think from my perspective, no, that's the whole purpose of a leader, is just to establish what needs to be done. But the other side of leadership is just this like cheerleading or something, like I don't know how else to describe it, where it does work also, because what it does kind of like creates some kind of positive environment where people feel like they're able to contribute their expertise. Like I'm not sure exactly.
It's like how some leader who has the charisma, they make you feel better about yourself. I guess they're trying to motivate you in that way, where that's part of the toolbox of a leader, I guess, because some people are that sort of straight arrow, sort of let's get it done, and that kind of technical sort of get down to brass tack type. There are those leaders who are very capable and they can lead in their own ways, but a lot of the times that you're kind of overshadowing the people under you, right? Because you're too capable, where you don't perhaps not giving enough spotlight for the people under you to shine. And there are certain other leaders who they themselves are not that technical. Like they don't know the in and out of the product or whatever, but they have the sense of the company and the sort of like the kind of team that they're leading, and sort of they give you that sort of like, I don't know, it make you feel at home, right? It'll make you feel, they motivate you to kind of do better. They they're almost like a counselor, right? They counsel you on some things other than just work, right? You can feel like almost, oh, this is like a big brother or something, right? Where somebody who take care of you. And so there are different styles, right? Obviously, a lot of people, they base on their...
Those like such strong interpersonal and even emotional skills that like I definitely don't have those. Like to me, the way it would work, like to me, everything is based on kind of like more directly experienced reality. So for example, if we did build like a feature and it was really efficient, there was no problems with it, I would like yeah, it looks like we did it, like it was so fast, there was no issues, everybody did a great job, amazing, I would say this stuff, but it would just be based on the actual reality that happened. It's because if we messed up, if nobody misunderstood things, I would call it out. I was like, no, we need to do like, so it's more like, I don't know how to explain it. It's more like structuring actual physical reality that you directly have access to, versus fostering and building a reality that is not there yet, which is what you can do with this emotional interpersonal skills, where you are trying to move people or inspire people to move toward a specific outcome. But it's done in such a nebulous form that to me it doesn't make sense. Like, to me, and personally, I would also prefer that. I would also, if somebody's doing it to me, all I need from them is just outline the outcome that they want. I don't care about nothing else. Like, let's not waste time on nothing else. It's so strange that, that we have these completely different approaches and preferences to life.
To be,
And
yeah,
that,
different motivators as well. Some people
yeah,
get motivated
different,
by other factors. Yeah,
like
it's
different communication modes and styles that we all have preferences for. Like, how do we live in all this common reality? I have no idea. Like, it's so strange.
But you see, that's the thing, man. We're born into this world, and then you have to figure out all these things, and the knowledge that you learn, the specific way by which you interpret the information, it informs how you develop into an adult, right? And who knows how, because that's the thing, right? Why are there geniuses in this world? It's not just because they have the IQ for it, but also what they experience in life and what kind of became inspiration for them to think about certain things, right? And other people didn't. I mean, we all had equal, I wouldn't say equal information, but like, everybody, there's almost nothing new under the sun, but then some people are just using their head to think about things very differently, right? And how did that form into that? Who knows? But some people just think very differently than other people, and that's just the reason why I think we should embrace more individuality and individual ideas, because you never know what those things will turn out. A lot of people make great discoveries because of that. And if everybody starts thinking in the same term, and you are kind of suppressing the creativity out of people, because you're not embracing the fact that some people might have a good idea, you know um and this is happens more often in Asia, because it's just the social mentality is always this kind of collective nature, so that you don't want to be the first one. Oftentimes that's how people think. It's like, oh, I don't want to be the first one to think differently than other people. But that's the problem. Then you're restricting new ideas. This is why in those societies tend to be very stubborn to change. They're very kind of, if you see Japan, for example. And Japan is very weird too, because they are very advanced in a lot of ways, but they're also very traditional and conservative in other ways. So
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
such a
make any sense.
paradoxical
It is
place.
paradoxical, yeah. But overall in Asia, yeah, people's thinking tend to be more conservative, and that, to a certain extent, can be a detriment.
But also, know what is difficult? It's difficult to understand which ideas are good. Because I even seen it in the workplace environment where um, we had one new manager, or leader came in, and they were telling us to, like, they were trying to reorganize the task management system that we're using and introduce new processes. And to me, it didn't make sense. To me, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense, because how we're going to manage our current projects with this, because I didn't see it. Like, I saw problems everywhere. And I was kind of like open about it, and then all of this was ignored, and they just did all of the things anyway, right? But eventually, what happened is that business processes also changed to be more conducive to that new way that leader was proposing. So I realized what was happening is that leader was dealing with information and processes on a much higher level than I am. So I wasn't even privy to information and decisions and the thinking that they're involved in on a leadership level. And I was evaluating their decisions from my level, which is a bit lower than them. Mine was more operational. And I was thinking, like, how are we going to do what we do now with this system? But that's not what they were thinking about. They were thinking about the future state based on the direction the company was going into, based on what they discussed with other, C-suite people in the company.
Right.
It's just that they didn't describe it that way, because there's a certain amount of closed loop on a leadership level, which they don't like confer with people lower than them. They don't explain themselves, which to me it was a problem. If only they explained the full thing, it would make sense to me. But I was not on board because of this. Like I was very resistant to this change because to me, I was trying to envision how I would be doing my current work through it, and I didn't see it working. Like I saw them taking out all the tools that I currently use to do my job, and I didn't see the reason for it.
Which means that to me seems like the way your mind works, it seems like you're
It's much
working
more practical and like immediate
Yeah.
application of it, you know?
But also, this kind of mentality means that you're better suited to be the leader and CEO yourself and working on your own project. Because the thing
Yeah.
is, these people are interfering with your process, right?
Exactly.
So, but the thing is, they are the one who are creating this whole endeavor or whatever, like
Yeah,
the company and stuff. So, in their perspective, your position is just you need to listen to what we'll tell you to do. But then it's like, well, what you're telling me to do is not incongruent to what.
Yeah, the problem there was really that they didn't even explain their decision
Right.
making. Like that was the problem to me. Like if they explain it's like, hey, the whole business, but because there's no transparency essentially, because in that company, like the leadership did not share because there may be some bad stuff happening to the company
that they
that
don't
the
wanna
leadership
tell you.
doesn't
Yeah.
want to tell you, and that pisses me off because I'm like, well, I feel like I'm being played then, you know? Again, it goes again to any kind of interpersonal relationships where somebody is hiding something from you and you're smart enough to see that that's happening. So you having a natural reaction like, I don't like this. This is some bullshit's going on. It's that. But it looks like there's no escaping that anywhere. There's always going to be this information
Yeah.
asymmetry, and somebody wanted to, even maybe for some kind of beneficial reasons, but this is where it gets into the territory of what's good for whom, you know? I start thinking back again, back to the
Yeah.
Dune, in the Dune theme, you know, it's like, what's good for whom in which period of time? What are we considering? Because there's so many considerations and interpretations one can do. Which one do you adopt and which one do you prioritize? You know, it all seems so arbitrary at some point.
It is, right? Because think about, again, with the Dune example. I mean, imagine if you were Paul. He was like, okay, I can see these visions, but they're possible visions. And he's just trying to avoid the worst possible scenario. But then how do you, he doesn't
But that
even know.
scenario, yeah, that scenario is only worse in comparison to some other scenario. But then there's
just
still
scenarios.
worse scenarios
They're
than
just
that you want to
scenarios.
consider.
It doesn't mean that it's because he can't really predict the future. It's like, it's not like he can see there are like correlations and like, okay, more likely that this is going to be the case, right?
No, but that's not the important part. The important part is that it's like the choosing the lesser evil, right? That's the real challenge.
Right.
But you think the lesser evil, that the one where you don't see as many deaths occurring in the same, you know, as a short amount of time. But that's the same problem as with the Warhammer 40K, right? It's the lore actually. What happened is that when chaos, started to propagate itself and started to convert the legions, the Alpha Legion, the youngest legion, they encountered some kind of prophet or somebody who essentially showed them, hey,
this is the
if
future.
you join chaos, Imperium will go through a short, brief crisis, but will come out okay at the end. Humanity will survive. But if you don't join chaos and side with Imperium right now, all that will happen is stagnation and infinite suffering that will never end. So that was the paradox, that the Alpha Legion at the end, they joined chaos because that legion,
right?
it's a sacrifice, but
sacrifice.
also the whole theme of that legion is subterfuge. Like their whole game, their old tactics is what they're doing is not what they're actually doing. So it's so funny that it's on theme for them, but it also shows that, imagine how much of a mindset, a double game that you have to play in order to betray Imperium for the good of Imperium in the very long-term scale, which is not even again, it's a potentiality. It's a potential scenario. But they're doing it because in that zoomed out analysis, or terrible conflict, with lots of suffering and death and stuff, is better than the alternative. So to me, it's that. How do you know that the scenario that you are going for, like the Paul chose for, see, like he didn't know that this is the best scenario. It's still myopic. You're only thinking that this is the worst case scenario. But the reality is that if you don't do it, the other option is worse. It's just how do you evaluate what's worth and what's not? Is it better for, 10 million people to die in a year versus 100 million people to die within 100 years? It's like, what's better?
It's like the trolley problem, right?
Yeah.
Do you press the lever so just kill one person or kill
Yeah,
5
it's just
people?
here it's an aspect of time is involved, because how much time are you considering? I think that's a really good additional dimension to this problem, because
time is
yeah,
always
exactly.
an issue.
What time frame are you considering? Because let's just think about this right now. So you have a trolley problem and there's a one person on the tracks and you have the lever. But if you press the lever right now, the train is coming, you will save this one person. But in 100 years, the trolley will reach, like when the diverted trolley will reach a point where it will kill 100 people. You're not going to be alive at that point.
Yeah.
But that trolley will kill a bunch of people.
Well, this actually remind me of, I keep thinking about this because I guess I am affected by it, but basically by the modern history of China. What happened after 1949, the new country emerges. What happened was, of the population control, right? Like I am the result of it.
No,
I'm the only kid.
The only thing
I know, but the only reason I brought this up is what decision they made then
it
has such a huge it changes the whole dynamic and how people think about themselves or how.
That's what I'm saying. It's your decision in your commitment to a certain plan that you think will benefit, because the life continues after that and stuff happens. All of your actions, all of your decisions have a third and fourth, etc. degree consequences, which you're not able to account for. So really, you never know what your actions will bring about.
And also, sometimes people make the short-term decision because it's the one they're very pressed to do, right? They're like, okay, right now, I must make a decision right now. And they made the short-term decision because from where they're standing, it's like, well, this is all the possibility that I have. I have a crisis on my hand. If I don't deal with this now, well, there's going to be a bigger problem. So let the potentiality happen in the future. Let the future generation deal with that. But other time that happens in human civilization, right? They just defer.
This is the crux of this topic that I actually want to explore too. How do we resolve it? It's the time. How much time do you consider for all these evaluations and analysis? If you're going to be fine, if you make a decision that will make you fine for the next year,
right?
Is that good enough? Like, because ideally, but then you still have to consider a specific amount of time anyway. It's not like you can't go infinite amount of time and consider that as a greatest good, because you don't know. Stuff happens all the time. The reality changes with every passing second. So anytime you project any kind of plan, it's always outdated anyway.
But also remember that future doesn't exist. What we think about as the future is a concept, right? Time only happens in now. So it's only in our head that, okay, there's a past because we remember them. And therefore we create a separate space we call past, and everything happened that we call history. But anything beyond the present moment, we call future, which is hypothetical. And it never exists. It will never exist because the future hasn't happened yet. So what can happen only in the now, right? We know this.
Yeah, but you know that next month you're going to have to pay rent.
which is still a projection. That's just a projection, right? So this is where the problem comes into. Humans are trying to plan for the future, but they cannot foresee anything at all. So this is where the decision, you have to be smart enough to correlate more data points the further you go into the future. Because the shorter it is, the less you have to consider, right? It's short term versus long term. And yeah, like whether that's a business, our personal lives, right? We all have ideas like, oh, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I have this plan, have that plan. But we all know it never go according to how you plan it. There's always something happening where it screw up your whole process, right? So this is why you have to have contingency plans. Otherwise, how is that going to work?
That process is, it's so frustrating. Even in project management, I faced it. A project manager is supposed to do risk management all the time, but I've worked in a couple positions where that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing because it was like company didn't care about it. It was just not part of the management process. But ideally, you need to manage the risks. The problem is that risks are kind of infinite if you think about it, because the whole reality is against you. The entropy is always there. Everything is always becoming otherwise, So for you to analyze, like, everything affects you. Like, if tomorrow they can do they can issue a market policy where, they abolish crypto in your country. That's a huge risk. And then you can't even, in order for you to prepare for it, you're going to have to make so much effort to have a contingency for that scenario. But that's just one risk. And then you have a whole catalog of risks, and imagine each one of them has contingencies.
Yeah.
That's too much stuff to manage.
Yeah, it's like the chess variability, right? There's so many moves. There's billions of moves you can make. But can you really put that all under your head to saying, oh, I can plan every single thing? No, you can't.
Yeah.
The moment you do, even if, I don't know, like you can't do it, obviously. So your opponent might you think he was gonna do that move, but he didn't, and then your whole plan go out to the window. Like, okay, now I have to.
That's why I did watch, like, I guess my algorithm picked up a bunch of chess interests. It started showing me a bunch of chess games where I watched some people commenting, on the thought process. And it's cool because essentially, everybody's thinking it's probabilities. So they would make a move and they say, okay, if they go here, I know I can do this. If they go here, I know I can do this. So you already have a bunch of these potentialities in your awareness when you make a move, and you're trying to maximize the winning potentialities, right? That even if the opponent makes multiple most probable moves, you're going to have some options where you can proceed to winning strategy. So that's another interesting point, is that you never think like, oh, that's my strategy, I'm going for the queen.
Yeah, no.
No, you always have to consider, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. That's the most difficult part so far for me, because I don't understand how to do that, because it's too much. You have to hold that information physically in your head. You have to visualize the board and understand it, and have that in your short-term memory, like loaded there, seeing like, okay, this move goes here, this goes here. It's a complex visualization at all times. That's a lot of mental resources.
Which is
because some people play a chess blind. They just do it in their head. It's like, what? It's not like you're visualizing an apple. You're visualizing such a level of detail with a full board, the numbers and everything, the pieces, remembering how pieces where it moves. That's a complex visualization technique. What the hell is that?
Which they do practice speed chess, right? Where, like, see how fast you can make that decision. Like, you do make mistake because it's too fast.
Yeah.
But it trains you to kind of like, I can process this faster.
To compute it faster.
So in the actual play, when you play normal chess, that helps you kind of make that quick. But it's still, like, it's crazy how people can do that. Like, the way that they can visualize, and some people probably can't do it. Like they can't visual. Imagine if you're a person who has this.
Yeah,
you're born without ability to visualize. I think some people do suffer from that.
Yeah.
Then you can't play chess because, like, you can't.
Can't even.
It won't even happen in your head, right? But
yeah, like these days, I notice for myself, it's such a strange. Essentially, you have to balance out this quickness of thinking with accuracy of assessment of the move on the board. And so many times, it's so strange because like I would reach for a certain piece and like, okay, looks like this is the move, and I make it, and like, this is the dumbest shit ever. Like, why did I do that? Finding that ability to like,
yeah,
like when do you choose the moment where you think you're certain that this is the good move? It's so strange because as soon as you make the move, like, no, that's not the move.
yeah. So that's how it's funny because you're like, you thought you made the best move right here.
Yeah.
You're like very happy with yourself, and
Yeah.
then the opponent did something, and then you're like, "Nani?"
Yeah, and it's a mistake. You like,
It's a mistake, and then you
they
got
have
owned.
yeah, they have a word for it. It's a blunder. You know, you blundered because you haven't considered
Yeah,
some existing aspect of the situation. But the problem is that, and I think I heard somebody refer to chess as a taste of infinity, because
infinite
you are dealing with
possibilities.
infinite potentialities, and you have to like find a way to zero in on some kind of pertinent part of it where, yeah, again, you maximize your winning opportunities. But this is such a weird way of thinking and dealing with the reality, even though that's kind of what we all have to do everywhere.
And you know, that remind me of the grander theme from Dune is actually one other thing I want to point out is the fact that why nobody thought about the fact that after you bring about the green paradise, the worm's gonna die. There's no more spice. Anybody thought about that? Because apparently,
No, yeah, that was the big part of the. I mean, I'm at the point in the second book right now where this is unfolding because that's why I remember it. But yeah, Paul is aware of it because he was using that as a negotiation technique, used it as a Mexican standoff when facing the Emperor and the Guild on Arrakis before they ambushed them, because essentially they let them know like, hey, if you mess with us, we will
we'll turn this planet green.
yeah, we'll turn this planet green. And everybody knows that's the end of spice. So they were very aware of it. And the Fremen, they don't care because all they want is to just live their life on a planet with normal ecosystem. So everybody considered it. That was definitely known. It's just, again, what is valuable to whom, right? The Spice Guild wants the spice because that makes them travel and it's their wealth. The people who live on a planet that produces the spice don't give a shit about the spice because they don't need to travel anywhere. They just want to live with their families and, their communities. So again, it's such different priorities where there are other people out there who may want stuff from you and what you have, and who don't care about you, who just want like, these Fremen, like freaking eradicate them, make them mine spice for us. This constant battle of wills. That's what reality seems to be. People wanting different stuff. And that's the root of all evil, if you think about it, right?
Right. And also
Can you find a way to not watch stuff that infringes on other people's freedom and well-being? Is that even possible?
We've been doing that for a long time, right? The fact that
those guys have the good stuff. We want the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's get the good stuff from those guys.
It's happening right now, right? They're fighting a war right now because of oil. Just because the U.S. they gain to benefit if they control the oil. They control the U.S. dollar currency by the way of oil. So, right. So it is kind of, we want your stuff. We want to control these regions that produces this stuff, and we want to direct the policies of the world economy and this and that. So, right, is exactly what's happening with that. But the other thing I'll remind of is like, also the fact within Dune, the idea that the fact of the greenification, making Arrakis green, it changes the culture of the Fremen. They lost their Fremenness, right? They no longer Fremen. And what does that mean for a culture?
That was another thing that also made me think about it, because I was reading that part and it made me think, the reason those are like the most elite warriors and, everything in their awareness, they're so on because their survival, their environment shaped them to be. It's necessary for them in order for anybody to survive. That's what they have to be. They have to be the most keen human predator in the universe, because the dangers of the environment, the dangers of the off-worlders, if you're not on 100% like them with all those skills and conservation of energy skills, which is just so precise that you have to be on it, dude, imagine that life. You're never off. You have to be considering everything there. Your surroundings, like the way they describe them is essentially they're superhuman, like at that level of the amount of awareness and skills that they developed. But yeah, all of that goes away once that environment is no longer there. Isn't that interesting?
It's also a same analogy.
So what do you actually want then?
It's
You want to
analogy.
be this capable being, or you want to be a nice green paradise where you can grow fat and lazy?
Yeah. You see, that's the cycle of civilization, right? I mean, we've been through that as humans. It's like during hard times, everybody dream of the green paradise, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? So I want all the riches, all the, and then you build an empire. And then when you get to the empire, it's like, well, now I'm having everything now, like I'm no longer hungry. So you get lazy. Yeah, you do get lazy, right?
Yeah.
And then
'Cause you don't
things
have
just
to do it.
decay, and you don't have to do anything anymore, right? It's just like, okay, this is cool. This is, but then you no longer have that edge. So when things change, you know that saying, right? Hard men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard time. So
Yeah.
it's that whole cycle. So how
But
do
that
you?
seems to be an
That's the way of the
inevitable cycle then, because
yeah
those are just natural
rhythm
motivating factors that are in place, and that's just how they affect us. That's how they drive our behavior. Because yeah, if you're alone in a forest, you're gonna be frightened and you're gonna be hungry, and nobody likes that, and it's gonna drive you, just even on an instinctual level, to fix that thing.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a matter of choice.
So the other, what they talk about is also sometimes these empires will actually create the enemy that they need to fight, because how else you gonna, because if nothing's wrong, then there's no purpose for you to exist. So there's the constant this sort of like false flag and stuff like that happens in the real world, and that's only because they need a reason why they should be doing the thing that they're doing, right? So I don't know. Sometimes you think about the world, it's like it's go too crazy, man. There's like too many things going on, and there's so many motivations out there, right? Big organizations, individuals, and every single person, like we all fighting against each other, but also against ourselves, because we have these desires that we want. And sometimes you can be smart enough to know that it's bad for you, but you still want to get it.
Dude, it's to me, it's the biggest conundrum to this day is that, wanting what you want, understanding and knowing what you want, and trying to figure out what's good for you. What is good for you?
How do you figure that out? What do you mean by good? Good in what way, right?
Yeah. Because it seems like there really isn't, that's not even the thing. There isn't good, because it's not like there's ultimate good where you are done, where you receive that good. But that kind of drives another nail in the coffin of the topic of desire, because it's almost like it doesn't matter what you desire. You never
the
arrive. Problem always stays.
But
the
maybe
problem always stays.
What about maybe perhaps that's the point? You know how you define lifelessness? How do you define a human life? Have you lived? If a person say, I have lived, meaning they have seen stuff, they have experienced.
Yeah, there's always something happening. You're moving
There's
somewhere.
that desire, right? So again, this remind me of Blade Runner, right? That replicant, they only have 4 years, and so they want to live desperately. And so the quest for him, for Roy Batty, the character of the replicant, was just to get more life. But in the end, he found out it's not possible. So in the end, he saved the protagonist, because he's in the final fight, he sees that he understood what it means to be like him, to want to live, to have more life, to kind of the desire for it, even knowing they couldn't get it, but the fight for it, right? To want to live seems like to be the purpose. That famous line is like, I have seen things right? You people wouldn't believe, right? So he had experienced a full life essentially. So to him at the end, he's like, okay, this is enough. I feel good. I think I have gotten what I needed, what I needed. So the idea that to live is to kind of, it's almost to chase after the desire to live, the desire of what that leads to you, but you also kind of can't really give into it because it's never, you can never satisfy it, right? So
Well, to me, that sounds like the solution is essentially just to be present and to be grateful for being alive, and that's it.
yeah, so to
There's nothing
have
to do.
as much live experience as you can, that seems to be the case. It's just like
But lived experience meaning like what? Striving to do something specific?
it could be
Like what?
I suppose that it's just you don't want to live a life where you feel like you didn't go after your potential, because there are good ways to live and there are bad ways to live, right? I mean,
But that's what
if you
I'm
stagnate,
saying. Like,
and
how do you know what's
it is hard to know, but I think part of it is that kind of making goals for yourself. It is one of the
okay?
ways, right? Because
Okay.
if you try to achieve something and you have achieved it, maybe it's just that sense of achievement is all that what it is. It's a feeling, right? It's like it's the feel of the thrill of the thing that you wanted to get. This is why there are thrill seekers out there who just do dangerous stunts and whatever just to feel the adrenaline. There are some people like that. That's their whole life. There are other people who are, I don't know, so they do lead a more calm life, but as long as you're satisfied with it, then I guess there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay,
But
let's try to make it a bit more concrete. I'll give an example. I like playing video games,
mhm,
but is that good or is that bad if I play video games all the time?
only if it affects you negatively. If you play on the detriment of your health or a detriment of um, where you're doing it for the sake of doing it. Well, I mean, you're doing it for, I don't know, even though you don't like to do it anymore, but because it becomes a compulsion, then
Okay,
that will be
okay.
bad, right?
So it's interesting.
So
But
it is
what if
still,
my balance is like playing 8 hours a day and then I still consider it fine? Is that still
that's your
fine?
limit then. That's your balance.
Okay,
If
so
you're fine with that,
there's still like you maintaining certain sensitivity, which I do agree. It does fluctuate because these days I'm actually doing it really well in terms of staying on top of, do I really want to do it, or am I doing it out of some kind of
yeah,
thoughtless compulsion? It's just it's still a lot. Like I still like if all things balanced out, I still prefer to play a lot of video games in a day. Sometimes I take breaks, sometimes it's just I forget about it, but it's still definitely there for whatever reason. So it's that, it's kind of like feeling based. So it's not
yeah,
because
it's feeding based. Yeah.
before I would try to evaluate it more from like from standpoint of some kind of external values or, systems of philosophies. But at the end of the day, the final analysis is how you feel about a thing, it seems. There's no going away around it. It's almost like I've had these conversations with people who are uh, addicted. Like, what is really addiction? I still don't really understand it, but the way I see it is that there are some kind of factors inside of you that are making you addicted. And I've talked to people who've been trying to quit smoking, for example, for many, many years. And they've done a lot of internal work and spiritual work, and they've quit everything else but smoking. And they tried everything: hypnosis, psychologist, therapies, modalities, and it just doesn't work. So it's at that point, you gotta like, my personal philosophy is that I think you gotta like accept that you are a smoker and you should enjoy smoking till the very end, because that seems to be your only option. And my theory is that if you do that, it will naturally fall off because something in you
Right.
wants
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do it for whatever reason, which means it serves some kind of purpose.
I
And if you stop fighting it,
yeah.
their harmonization will happen.
I think
I
so.
think.
I think so because I
Yeah.
do feel part of it, how I conceptualize it, or how I think about it with addiction is, what they say. addiction is a substitute by which it's trying to fix the things that you miss, like that you miss dearly in your life, right? So it's not the substance that's the problem. It's the problem in that person's life that they don't find the solution for, that they use the substance to kind of be a substitute for. So it does
kind of like a subconscious way to do it.
Yeah, so it does go into more on the side of emotion, so to speak. There's something missing from your childhood, so to speak, that kind of opened you up for that addiction because that hit the spot that you were missing. So I think the mechanism is kind of like that.
But then if you're not aware of what it is and you're just doing it, it seems like it's subconscious behavior, right?
Yeah, it is subconscious.
What is there to do then? What is the problem, Because if that's naturally happening, and we already established you're not exactly choosing, everything that's happening to you like this, what is there to do for you? Should you just give in to it? But that doesn't seem to be right as well, because so many addictions are like physically dangerous.
So
how do you deal with that?
But in the way that you were saying, it also makes sense, right? Because it's almost
makes sense to me, yeah.
Yeah, because it makes sense that the more you try to stop it, the more you're gonna try to do it.
Yeah, it's like trying to control a thing, because I've experienced that, and I, based on my personal experience, it's like you can't control anything anyway. In terms of like, hey, looks like I have this problem, let me try to control it. I don't know if it ever worked. But also, I never really had any big problems with addiction. I had taste of it for sure. I had days in my life where I was actually addicted to gaming. Like, it was actually a problem because it was detrimental to my health for sure. It's that where some kind of compulsion happens to such a degree that it like hijacks your whole nervous system, but I don't know why, like in hopes of getting what? It's almost like maybe you get tricked on some kind of level, or under illusion that this is the thing that needs to be happening. It's so good that it just needs to keep going.
I mean, there is that, right? Because people are pleasure seeking, that's for sure. But I think when it comes to addiction, there's definitely that aspect of something about your life is there's things are missing that you really want, but you don't even know what that is, Sometimes
No, exactly.
You can't even word it. But somehow, what is that? Did you lack parental
how do you figure that out?
As a kid or something? What is it? It's so hard to say, right? Because as a person growing up, it's like, what do you want? You don't know what you want, but you develop into an adult, and there are definitely going to be
preferences, and
there are definitely going to be shortcomings, right? We all have things that happen to us, or nobody has a perfect life, right? But if kids are that vulnerable, then how do you become a working adult? Like a functioning. You can't almost. It's like everybody is sick in some
that's
way.
Kind of
everybody's
right?
screwed up. Everybody
has some kind of thing.
Yeah, there's no kids that are perfect, right? Growing up perfect, have a perfect childhood and whatever. Even with a supposedly perfect childhood, that person can still develop into some kind of problems.
No, dude, imagine this. Like, everybody has a problem.
Yeah, everybody has a problem.
Everybody.
Yeah. You think about it, then yes.
Some kind of like actual problem in their life that they're dealing with.
Yeah,
that they
some
have
kind of
to
issue.
deal with.
And it's also kind of hard to figure it out why is it happening, right?
Yeah.
Like what's your problem?
What's missing?
What's your problem?
Right? What's your problem? Why does it have to be a problem?
And then
the only way I found to deal with it is like by what I was saying, essentially by not looking at it as a problem. I think that's the only way you win.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, yeah, that's just what seems to be happening. So what is it? If it's not that, something else will be happening.
Because I think it's a good practice to kind of have honest conversation with yourself, almost, where you're not trying to punish yourself for all the
right.
Like to say,
that's the important part,
things you're
that you have to practice self-compassion.
Yeah, because I think you respond better to that than just like wanting to beat yourself up about certain thing. Then it's gonna come back to bite you because you have something in you that's almost like a personality. They're like, I don't take kindly to your mean words, so they're gonna continue to do the thing that you don't want to happen, right? So this is how you relapse. like in anything, any sort of like problematic addictions or whatever. It's just like you're just gonna bounce back because it's like revenge for beating yourself for trying to be better, right? They're
Yeah.
part of us are like the devil, I guess. It's like, nope, I'm not doing what you tell me to do.
Yeah, there's especially with stronger addictions. I mean, that's what happened with me in gaming, right? The time I tried to delete my Steam account.
And then you write it was hilarious. It's
Dude,
like right
that
back. It's
was
like how fast was
funny.
it? How fast was that?
Oh, it was funny. Like the Steam account, I lasted a couple weeks, but the thing is, after I deleted Steam account and said I'm not gonna play games, I just switched to mobile gaming like in a couple days, because I couldn't like say, I need to play some games. It was ridiculous. And eventually, like I'm writing back to Steam, like, can you please give me back my account? It's embarrassing, dude. They're like, yep, here it is.
Imagine if people at Steam be like, oh, guess how many days this guy's gonna last.
Dude, but also, it kind of the reason it felt like that also for me, I think it's such a big part of my identity at this point that I almost got scared of the vacuum. I got scared of the vacuum that it would leave because, like, well, hold on, what am I gonna do? And it makes you question, well, what do you want to do? I want to play fucking video games. But then just do that. It seems like that because you do that because, like, while, there are opinions out there that it's bad for you or something. But then if you just, like, essentially you are faced with the decision to, like, stop doing what you like and adopt some other values and, and do something else. But then still, what is your impetus for this? What are you trying to do?
Also, the problem with that also is it's a temporary fix, right? Because you're trying to fix something by which you're trying to replace it, and I don't think you accept it in your mind, right? There's like, no, I will not accept the fact you want to take this away from me. So whatever you replace it with, you're not gonna be fully into it because it's like so.
That's the thing. These days, seriously, I think the gaming process for me is very meditative. I think that's why I like it so much because you could literally disappear into the process and it's a flow state. But then what is the problem with it? Isn't that what you want?
Yeah, in a way is.
It doesn't have to accomplish anything, right? You just have to, if that's what you like to do. Like some people like to lie on the beach. It doesn't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's just what enjoying of being in life is.
Yeah.
So there's no problem.
I think that the only problem comes into is basically if it start impeding your daily life where you game 16 hours a day, no breaks, no food, like you just
yeah. There's no balance at all.
You gotta have a balance though, because you're still a physical being. You require these substances, you require exercise, you require all these things.
Yeah.
So if you forgo that for this, then that's
Yeah.
where you will draw the limit, right? As a healthy person to think,
Yes.
okay, that will be a problem because I'm doing this thing too much, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But nobody says you can't play gaming or do this and that. It's just like,
okay,
if a certain thing start to affect your life so badly, then that is a problem, right? When
but
interfere.
You know what the problem with games though is that, I mean, I can't play for a couple hours.
Yeah,
a couple hours
yeah.
doesn't work anymore. If you live like a regular adult life, nobody has the time to do that really. If you're like a grown-ass man with all the families and all the responsibilities, you don't really have the time. So, but if that's what I enjoy doing and what I like doing, and I optimize everything else for that, is that a problem?
No, if you optimize it, if you have all your work done, right? If you have there are gonna be priorities, and I don't think gaming should be like, say, the top priority, right? It's the entertainment. Doesn't mean you can't do it. You should do it when you're free. Or like, okay, I've done all the stuff I need to do.
But what do you need to do?
Well, that's the
balance.
What
if you decide that's what you want most?
You could do it. I mean, if you monetize it some way, then that could be a life because you don't have to worry about,
That's the ideal.
But the problem also comes in your health do come into it, because if you sit there for 16 hours a day, that's not good. Doesn't matter if you're actually earning money with gaming or whatever. right? So if you have a balance of it, like imagine, okay, you're a streamer. That's fine. Dude, imagine if some of these people earn millions of dollars playing games, man. It's crazy. But they're able to
Yeah.
have to maintain their
Yeah, no,
finance.
yeah, that
They
part
play games, it's
absolutely
fine.
agreed. Yeah.
But they still need to have a balanced life. Okay, sometimes they gotta do some stretches, they gotta exercise, they still
Yeah.
gotta hit,
No, yeah, I
you
don't
know.
question that. But I guess that raises another interesting point of what is the extent of your analysis and awareness and effort should be directed towards health and maintenance in life. Because ideally, I mean, dude, at this point, I'm familiar with so many different frameworks and modalities and things that you could like spend your whole day doing yoga and meditating and doing a cold shower and doing the stretching and go for a jog and go to the gym and do some pranayama and do some sunbathing and do a healthy walk where you don't think about anything and listen to informative podcasts. Dude, that could be a whole day. But what is this balance? Like, how much of what do you need to do? Because, yeah, ideally, all of these things, if you do all of them, you're going to be in great shape, etc. But to me, like these days, I mean, how much do you want to do of everything? Like even working out in the gym for an hour, it seems like I do it. I still have, I work out every day and have a walk or, a stretching and this and that. But even that seems a lot. Like, but based on everything we know about what's good for you and what's out there, like an ideal person should be doing all of this stuff every day. But that's not what I naturally want to do, at least at this point, because that's not really living life to me. That's like doing all these
Chores.
boring maintenance stuff. That's kind of, it's too routine for you to enjoy it. So that's why I try to mix it up. Like for me, the variety seems to be really important. I try to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
So that just means that you gotta have to have a natural, well, I just say a trained ability to distinguish when it is time to do a certain
So it's
thing.
just still self-monitoring. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like, imagine if you're playing game and then you feel like, okay, I've been sitting here for 8 hours. I kind of feel
Yeah. Yeah.
icky. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta stop. I gotta do some exercise, right? It's that kind of judgment call that you have to make. So you can't just be like, oh, this is the good part. I got to continue playing this thing. But then no, then that's become detrimental, right? In a way. So I mean, because the fact that nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can say that. Oh yeah, they can say,
Yeah.
oh, this is bad for you. This is what, in a way, maybe they're right, but nobody can really stop you from. Only
Yeah, so
you can make that
it's
decision.
still some kind of playing by ear. It's just, I don't know. I keep wanting to systematize it, and make it. It's definitely much better these days, like where it feels like I am much more in the flow and it's much less structural and systematic for me because some mornings I wake up, and I do a stretching or, a little workout routine right away. Some mornings I don't feel like doing it. And this is the great struggle for me to understand because, some people say like, no, discipline, it's all about discipline. Discipline equals freedom, Jocko Willink style. Because there's definitely a value in that approach as well. But somehow, if I do that, like every day it starts looking like the same and it starts bothering me. Because I know if every day has to start with a cold shower and a workout, I instantly feel a resistance to like, no, we need to interrupt the pattern. So to
Yeah.
me,
So in that,
it's kind of a problem. I have to mix it up.
I think so. In your case, it will be like you need to have some key things that you got to hit, right?
Yeah.
Like almost on non-negotiables. But other than that, the whole day beyond those points, you can do
Yeah.
whatever you like, right? I think you should give
This
yourself that.
way, there's definitely, because essentially you're not making all these decisions consciously all the time. That's the part that I'm still struggling to understand and comprehend, because if it was as simple as that, like, okay, here's the perfect day plan, just do this every day, because I've tried to do it a bunch of times, and you just hit it, for some reason it doesn't work that way. It just never does.
Yeah, see, the problem is this is why people hate go to work. When they go to work, in the most cases, they're doing an office work where
Yeah.
you get to the office this time, you do this thing, and then this, and that. people hate doing this 5 days a week, right? It's like, it's boring. It's like, okay,
It's too repetitive,
it's
right?
too repetitive. There's nothing, so that's why they hate work. Like, for example, I don't hate work because I have no set schedule. Each day is different. I go to different places, move different people, see different, everything's different every day. So for me, I don't get bored, and I gotta exercise every day. So which is cool. So this is key. Human wants new experiences. So you kind of have to
But
cater
then-
your life into that kind of.
Is everybody like that?
No, I will say some people do not operate like that. For example, right, David Goggins, man, that guy, for him, is like he has to have that kind of schedule because that's just
Yeah.
how he works.
He does it all the time.
And also he understands perhaps that for him, he has that inner fat David that he knows if he let himself go, he will go. He will just go back to that. So he's like,
So
constantly
it's almost like
beating
you
himself.
Lock yourself, you lock yourself into a certain track, and you're like, all right, and you like make a certain peace with it. It's like, this is the better option.
Yeah. So for
out of
him,
all the options, this is like the only workable, stable option.
Yeah. So for him, I think he's very admirable in the way that he understood himself. Right.
Right.
Through all his life experiences, he understood himself to the core. Because he could have just slack off and then be like, okay, I done what I had to do. I'm good now. No, because he knows, he experienced how it feels like to be the fat David.
Man, but I
and
don't
then
know
he's
how
like,
he does
no,
it, dude.
I'm not going to go back to that.
Feats that he's gone through and he described, I don't know. I would never.
It's almost like humanly impossible. I think for some humans, they can't do it. They just couldn't possibly physically do that.
Because
for some reason, how he could do it.
Definitely is a mental thing for sure. Like, even though the discomfort is physical, I can see how it's possible to overcome mentally, but that means that, I don't know, I think he just has a very developed spirit because that's how he's doing it, He described running marathons with broken things, which is, what? Imagine doing that.
Yeah.
You have broken, ankles and stuff, and you keep doing that?
In my example is that this was one time I was in our school, right? So we were in they were inviting us, our students, to do a butter sculpture for winter kind of festival and stuff. So it will be like doing this in a cooler, right? So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can, make some sculptures. That's awesome. So I joined in, and the problem was it's an actual cooler with a glass panel, so they see you inside the cooler building the stuff with the cold butter, right? You can carve whatever. I thought I was prepared. I was wearing all the warm clothing. I thought it was enough, but dude, imagine making a sculpture for hours
right?
in that cold. It was so unpleasant. It was so bad that for some reason, I think my mind overrided. You know what happened? I just walked out. I was gone. They couldn't find me. So for some reason, I'm done. Just drop everything and just fucking went home. But now I think back about it, I was feeling so bad after that because people were like, where were you? I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
I had enough of that shit.
I had to quit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I had to, look, I tried to refuse the money they tried to give me. They still give me money for it. Not much, but it's still for doing it. I'm like, I wanted to refuse it, but it's like, no, we have to give you this. But I feel so bad taking that money. It's like, dude, I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And then getting reward is like, that's embarrassing. That's shameful this way, right? But I distinctly thought to myself, that was a moment where I was out of control. I was not in control of myself. My bodily function almost took over. It'd be like, nope, dude, you're out. You're not going to be in this environment because that takes hours to do a proper thing, right? Because it's also very hard to it's hard butter. So it's, it's not like you can melt it that easily. So
yeah, that kind of makes me think that I think in different people, there are different parts of the, brain and mind that are in charge of certain things. So for example, for David Goggins, I think that's just his brain is like that.
He's able to override all of that.
He has a certain capacity in his brain that is able to exert that control. But everybody's going to be
So
different like that.
now I understood how, some people, when they go to a field of battle in the past, they're running away from the battlefield.
Yeah, everybody's going to be different.
Right? Because some people, they just run. They lost their
They
mind.
don't have
They're
a
like,
choice, yeah.
I don't want to be in this. So they run away. So
Yeah.
they couldn't control the urge to do that. So I feel like that's how it felt like, where I constantly trying to find, okay, which part of me was, because I feel like I
Right.
walked out almost in a daze. I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically, you almost could not
Something
recall how you
overrides.
thought during that whole time. Something overrode
Right.
that, so like,
Yeah.
I'm out. Nope, I'm out. That was it. So you
Wow.
weren't thinking, you were just like this one consciousness.
And then just when you're going
the
home,
one
like,
goal,
what are you thinking?
I think blank, because I couldn't recall what I was thinking at that time. It's maybe I was just complaining about this is bullshit, this is whatever. But then it's like,
Yeah, you just justify it.
but it's kind of like overrode everything. Like I was not myself. I was like, was not in control of myself, even though I got home. But then it was almost like I wasn't thinking about anything else. I mean, everything else was blanked out, and I just purely went for the, So maybe I'm just, I don't know, I'm weak like that. I don't know, weak-minded. I don't know how to explain that, but sometimes, I don't know, things like that do happen, right? When you don't have the training, you're not hone yourself to that kind of, which is why they do train, right? Like for physical, that's why in the army, they let you go through the hell weeks.
Yeah, that's the the crazy part is that there's degrees to everything. And yeah, of course, anybody can kind of, I don't know if exactly what it is, a willpower, or how do you want to phrase it, but it's the ability to withstand, I guess, the unpleasantness and difficult conditions. I think, if you have enough of a motivation, if enough is at stake, it's much easier to do. It does contribute to that, because like these days, if I'm working out for overall health, and it looks much more different than when it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, for example, because I have many injuries, and I have like, as I'm aging, like I'm feeling you can't go balls to the wall. At least I can't, Obviously, there are all kinds of guys. Like I see all kinds of guys in the gym who are like
still going hard,
older and stuff, but they look insane. They look huge. They look masculine. Like I don't know what they do, right? Whether it's genetics or supplements or whatever, but they look like they're insane, right? So I look at them and like, well, that's not my situation, because for me to do that, like I would have to literally go to steroids or something, because I've been working my whole life. I've been working out since I was 14. I've never developed like this muscles. I don't know what the fuck that is.
No, you can, because I think it is steroid. Because I think
so.
Naturally you just don't get to be like that, no matter how
There's
hard
no
you
way.
try.
And like I have a good muscle tone. Like I have like a power lifter's muscle tone based on the genetic tests I've done, which like I can see like the volume of muscle increasing, but not to that degree.
Not to that degree.
Like not like that. No matter how much effort and and systematic working out I've done, it looks all right. It looks like okay for me. The one thing I did notice is easy to train, like easy to gain volume, is legs. Like if I hit the legs hard consistently, they grow like crazy. Like they grow like a lot. But that's because that's just the biggest muscle in the body. But like everything else, maybe back, like legs and back are okay for me. But everything else, like biceps, triceps, chest, is so difficult. Like I never see any big volume increase. So for me, like the working out these days is very different. So I'm just trying to keep it optimal, so nothing like hurts like crazy. And it's a different approach than it's like David Goggins. What he does is like to the wall, right? It's so extreme that I wouldn't find it enjoyable for myself, because even though that could be, even more healthy and more optimal, but that's just so much more unpleasant.
I think it's not just unpleasant or unpleasant. I think some people are gonna die trying to do that. They're just not. They're gifted enough to have that kind of regime. Some people have heart condition, natural, congenital heart condition or whatever. They couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's another thing. You need to be like really consistent with this stuff. You can't like all of a sudden go and run a marathon.
Yeah,
a lot of it is long-term stuff. Also interesting, what I noticed, like I don't even do that much cardio. I maybe do like one intense cardio session a week. But even that's been enough. Like it elevates your conditioning so much. Holy smokes. I just
Yeah.
do like 1 hour of elliptical where like I go fairly hard, like where I sweat and my heartbeat goes like to 150. So it's pretty intense. But just doing 1 hour of that a week has been amazing because like I had my first bike ride of the season just a couple of
Oh
days
yeah.
ago. I was not even winded. I did like 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
Never even like my breath rate didn't even elevate. I was just
Yeah.
like 20 kilometers in like 1.5 hours. I didn't
Yeah.
even notice it.
I've
It's
been
like,
finding
whoa.
it crazy that, dude, I could be doing moving whole day. I'm not tired.
Yeah.
Like sore, yeah, but
Your body get used to
get
it.
used to doing that for hours and hours with that much weight, no problem. Like don't feel tired.
But that's like what you want. You do want to be in that condition. Because if you
Yeah.
compare this condition to the one where you're not in that condition, it sucks.
Yeah.
But that's what it requires. It does require actual physical exertion and work
Yeah.
all the time.
And that's why we were able to climb all those mountains, man. Because if I were not in those shape, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to keep
Yeah,
up.
yeah. No,
There's
no.
no
It would
way.
suck. You wouldn't, yeah, we go through that.
It would take even longer, right? Because you're just
Yeah.
not climbing fast enough. But
Yeah.
yeah.
You would just get tired and exhausted and achy so much faster that that's what conditioning is. Yeah. It's just being in shape, being able to do something.
So yeah, so that, like we're saying, right? There are optimal way to live, right? Certainly with enough exercise, good nutrition. Yeah, that's what the good life can, So even though sometimes we might feel like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's work. But yeah, well, that's what it takes, right? So you can choose whatever. I mean, you can choose to game 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do it. Nobody's saying you can't do, but that's also not good for you, right? So
Yeah.
I
I
just,
think eventually, like, your natural intelligence have to come out with insights
yeah.
and realizations. Like, no, I'm starting to experience some suffering here, and if you like, it's most of the time it is obvious. You don't naturally consume like 15 cups of coffee and then
Yeah.
you'll wonder like, what happened though? What happened? Why though? What? It's I don't know. Even though I'm sure it happens to a lot of people
You
where
just
they do not notice such
you
obvious
gotta
things.
yeah, you gotta judge yourself. Sometimes, sometimes you just ask, you just react to yourself like, bro. When that happens, you tell yourself, you tell yourself, bro. Now you know you're doing the right thing because you figured out if something is wrong, bro. Like it's not, this is not good, you know?
Yeah.
When you call yourself out, like, bro, then yeah, you gotta change it.
And at least for me, it did start becoming much more natural and obvious with time, age, and experience. But that's because I've started paying attention to these things fairly early on. I was trying, okay, looks like this is producing these results, this is producing this results. Like one of the earliest examples of that was when I was starting to hit the gym pretty consistently, pretty hard in my 20s. And there came a time where I'm like, okay, I want to essentially do the gains, right? I want to have gains from the gym. But then I noticed that drinking, every time I drink, it would really weaken me. I would really suck in the gym. So the results would be as good. And I literally came to this dichotomy of like, okay, well, it looks like if I want to maximize my effort and output in the gym, I need to eliminate drinking because it interferes. It's like the opposite. It pulled me in the opposite direction of what I wanted to do there. And I quit drinking like cold turkey for like 3 years. I was just like, okay, this
It
is
just
not,
made sense, right? It
yeah,
just makes
because it's an
sense.
obstacle.
Yeah.
If I ask myself what I want to do, I want to go to the gym and have consistent results and see what happens if I commit to it. And it was great. Like I didn't miss or nothing. Like I didn't care about drinking for 3 years.
See, that's the thing, right? You have some goals by which it motivates enough to override the drinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the people who are alcoholic, for example, in a lot of ways, they're just doing it because something is missing in their life. They're just trying to
Yeah.
use it to numb themselves of it.
Yeah.
So when you have a goal like that,
I think I need a
I
purpose. Yeah.
think purpose, exactly. This is what we've been saying, right? The idea that
Hmm.
you want to have a goal. You want to have something you're reaching for. It doesn't matter the result, but like just the act of doing it, right? that creates in itself a whole ecosystem, right? So it kind of structure all your stuff. What's more important to you, what's not, and your life will just fall into place. Because otherwise, it's paralysis by choice. It's too many choices in life right now in the modern day. That just you get distracted everywhere, right? Social media, what's out there, and all the stuff that you receive. So you kind of have to have some kind of structure. So if you have a goal, if you have a purpose, then all that just goes away because you're like, okay, I know what I need to do. So everything else just fall in line with that. So that's why I think in your scheduling, I think my suggestion again is just like, okay, have a couple key things you got to hit no matter what. Everything else you can decide whatever you want to do in a given day, given week.
No, yeah, that's the way I've been doing it. It's been working well enough. It's just I meant to say like on the example of the David Goggins, like in comparison to that,
right?
Essentially, like I will never achieve that type of physique with my regimen,
right?
Because I'm just started thinking, okay, if I did want to, just for the sake of it, if I thought maybe getting my physique into its most perfect, optimal, like jacked and lean state, because that's a thing, a lot of people wanted. I could do it, but then for sure, like my whole life would have to revolve around that. Would have to watch your diet like a hawk. You have to structure your meals and count your calories and macros and have specific. Actually, should I just do that? No, see, like to me, that sounds like not that fun. Technically, it will be conducive to that goal, but then it still becomes why do I want that? So what? So the only reason I can think of is that you look sexier.
To whom, right?
But
for who?
To potential mates. That's it.
But that's like if only that's important to you, right? Because a lot of times you got to figure, is that really that important? I mean, when you were young,
but also I did do that, and that doesn't matter. Like if
it doesn't matter exactly, it doesn't really matter. No.
Women don't care about this stuff. They respond to
completely
other.
They will say, well, that stuff will be good to have, but like it's not
that's not the deciding factor.
Yeah, even if you have it, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So
in terms of like upper echelons of physique, like
right,
no.
It's about
just don't be overweight too much, and that's fine.
It's a lot more about your personality as well as your regimens, your what do you want in life and that kind of thing, right? Because people do want to be with people who have their shit together, right? That's just how it is. Doesn't matter what gender you are.
What's your health in general? Because that's should be primarily your responsibility and no one else's. So on that front, like I feel pretty balanced out, but still I'm kind of like amazed how much working out it takes to not be fat, for me at least, because man, like it's the calorie digestion is not fair. It's like
it is not fair. That's what I was gonna say. It's not fair, man.
Yeah.
Some people are just like they don't even do much and they still can maintain their shape. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like for example, me, I don't get fat. It's just so hard for me to get fat because I can eat like a lot and it still doesn't happen. So that's just that's just the genetics. Some people are just more gifted in their physical conditioning and stuff.
So. Yeah, and that's another thing. You should just pay attention to that because, like, for me, at this point, it's for fairly natural. Like, I feel it. I go, okay, I'm getting. Actually, you know what? I notice it by how easy it for me to do like the yoga exercises, because certain poses, like you have to balance on your arms and stuff. And if I feel like it's way too difficult, I'm like, okay, I'm getting heavy, and I naturally like. Start dropping weight because I'm like, okay, well then if I can't do the yoga poses as easily, that means I can't handle my weight.
Physics.
And I think that's a really good factor essentially because the bottom line, you should be able to handle your body weight.
Right, yeah.
Optimally anywhere. That's the golden, I think, rule. Because you're always there with the gravity. You have to deal with gravity at all times. Make sure you're in control.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, that's still like I want to explore. Like we'll leave it for the next time, but this is where I want to lead the thought next. Is like to explore this balance a little bit more because the purpose stuff. Because still, how do you pick your purpose? I do want to explore that because as we just explored, you could pick a purpose of I want to be running a marathon. Like what determines that? How do you pick that? How do you know that's the best thing for you? I think that's going to be an interesting
I think is just
avenue.
naturally what you're interested in. Like some people just have gravitates towards certain things. Because you don't want to do things that you don't want to do. You don't want to do something completely like outside of your kind of
But also, wouldn't it be good to choose something new and commit yourself to it and try to figure it out? That's also could be cool, right?
That's also cool. Yeah, it depends on I guess it's also depends on the person, right? Some people are like that, like they naturally have this kind of exploratory mindset, like
Like
they want to do
right now, I
different
could sign
things.
up and learn how to fly a plane. That's a
Yeah,
thing that's available. I can do
that
that.
is available. Different challenges, right?
Yeah. And some
It's
people do that
some people do that. So it's more like how do you
just for the sake of
justify
it.
each activity in terms of
Right.
your grand kind of is there
Yeah.
some kind of grand plan that you're building towards, or is it just like, oh, exploration is the main factor, I'm just doing different things just because I want to try them? Because that could be right, you have more experiences in life, because nobody can say, oh, you must do this, must do that. No, you can do anything you like. So if you decide, oh, I want to learn how to fly a plane, I want to jump out of a plane on a parachute, I want to do bungee jumping, whatever, right? You can do it. And that could be a thing on the list, like, like in games, right? You complete these challenges, right? That could be a thing, but only if that kind of satisfy you in the kind of a grander kind of scheme of things, not just because I just want to
Hmm.
cross the thing off the list. Does that really ultimately feed into your how you want your life to be? I mean, I know some people they just enjoy extreme sports and they just do that. That's cool, right? But other people have, other stuff that they like, as long as because there's a balance between earning a living and living the life that you want to live, right? Because we
Hmm.
all had to deal with this. Because
Yeah.
also there's the other problem. Sometimes people get into an industry that they love, like to do the stuff that they love, but then it becomes a job and then they start to hate it. Now, that could also be because you could be passionate about a certain thing, and so therefore you thought getting into it as a job would be nice, would have been the dream. But once they do it as a job, then they lost interest. It's like, no, this is boring now. That happens to people. So you also kind of have to know, okay, if a hobby, how much of it is a hobby? And how much is it really, if you actually can monetize it, can you continue to do it? You know? Because some people find out that, yeah, they don't like it anymore after they turn a hobby into a job. So you do have to think about that as well. Okay, how do you balance what you do for life, what you do for money, versus what you do for want to be more fulfilled in your own life, right? Because look, there are gonna be obligations when you start to monetize your hobbies, let's just say, or monetize certain things that you want to be doing. There are strings attached, no matter which industry it is, no matter which activity it is. As long as money is attached, there are gonna be strings. So you just have to be ready for that. Are you willing to pull up with the BS that happens with it? I know this for example, publishers or writers, right? When they publish their stories. Once you get a contract, then there's strings, so many strings. You got to complete it by this time. You got to do this, and that. A whole bunch of things you got to sign. You do have to work under constraints once you are not doing this as a hobby. Like I just doing this for fun. You know. So there are pressures, especially if you do create something interesting that people want, then there's demand. And when there's demand, that put extra pressure. We talk about this with the creative segment, talking about creativity, right?
Hmm.
There's the whole fan demands, and that could be another whole set of pressure. So, it's more like beware what you want, because ultimately you don't know where, even if a thing is going well, where does that lead you, you know? would that kind of distract you from your goals? Would that distract you from what you actually want? Because sometimes that could happen. You could be achieving your dream being an artist, and then you feel like, and then you got pigeonholed by your by the manager or by the fans and whatever, right? Then you feel the pressure there, and then now you're a public figure, and now you have to do a certain thing a
Kind of
certain way.
feel like all of this is inevitable. Essentially, it's the same problem that I was mentioning, that like people get, everything gets old. And I think it's normal that you pivot, you find a new thing, you find a new goal, a new purpose, because yeah, nothing is guaranteed like that. Nothing, there isn't. Some people it happens. Some people luck into like they become a jeweler or something, and they just do that for their whole life, and they're happy with that somehow. But nothing is guaranteed like that. That's like, what point? You don't choose that a thing becomes old for you. It just does, right? It's like, well, it looks like this is boring now. So, like, it's not your decision even
Well,
at that point,
it's
right?
also, look, the other thing is they're different personalities too. Some people doing one thing is enough. Like, but for some, you've seen this, right? The M personality, where these people have to do multiple different things. They can't just do one thing. That's not for that. You will that person will feel bored if they just pigeonhole themselves into one single thing. So they do multiple things. They have different interests. They have different, and they operate in their life like that, where they do multiple different things and they feel satisfied doing those. So you kind of have to judge. So it's not that nothing's the same. No two person can be satisfied by one set of standards. Some other people this is the part where I guess the person has to figure it out. It's like, okay, am I satisfied with doing all these different things, or am I satisfied with doing just the one thing? It's almost a gut feeling, I think, because once you find it, I think you will know. It's
Hmm.
not like there's no dead set rule saying, oh, once you achieve this, then you will know it. No, it's like, well, pretty much you will know it when you see it, and there's no like nobody can prescribe like, okay, if you hit this thing and then you will get that. It's like it's kind of a feeding based thing. I feel, you know. So I think it's more like you shouldn't. This come back to Zen, I guess. The idea that you should chase but not chase. You are seeking for more wisdom, but then you're not seeking in the way that you don't put yourself pressure. You don't pressure yourself to be like, oh, I must find the answer. It could be like in the way of searching, on the path of searching, you find the meaning along the way. It's like you're able to experience through. It's like imagine you're playing a game, right? If there is a story progression, you just enjoy the game from beginning to end, right? You enjoy the process of it, not because you were able to get to the last objective, the last point. The point is the entire experience of playing that game, and not in any specific instances of that, right? Because you couldn't have multiple highlights in that experience, but without the boring part, without the path to it, then it does not string along the full story, right? So, and then I think that's the nature of experience. Because you are experiencing things in a continuous manner. It's not like you have snapshots, right? I mean, your memory will make them into snapshots, but as you're experiencing something, it's continuous. It's from beginning to end, right? So that's why the whole process is more important than, yeah, as they say, right? The process is more important than the end result. So I think it's that kind of moderating. Again, going back to moderate yourself, moderate how you treat any goals, because it's like nobody's pressuring you to do it. You just have to feel the motivation to do it, right? Kind of like and if you're not motivated, or if you feel like you don't you're if you feel like you're not reaching you're stuck, then you got to fix it, right? You got to find a way to kind of get back on track, to be like, oh, how do I get to, because the problem is like the longer you delay it, I guess, the more unfulfilled you will be. And then ultimately you won't be happy, right? Unless you just completely gave up on it and everything, and then okay, you just be whatever you will become. And then you better not be regretful at the end of the day, right? It's like, well, wow, I wish I did this and that. Well, too late now.
Did you know what's funny? It's this kind of idea of, I mentioned flying a plane, and now I kind of want to try it. I was just looking it up. Apparently, just to get to learn a license, it's only like 18K. That's not much.
But damn, I mean, flying a plane is crazy.
But
There's
that's
so
like,
many things that you gotta be mindful of. There's so
but
many
that's just a skill
crashes,
set.
bro.
It's like, really?
A lot of people crash, man, especially those small planes. I mean, I don't trust those. Something about those Cessnas or whatever, there's so many cases of
They're
crashing.
too gimpy.
Yeah, because like, I think what I realized, like, it's not like in the games, like you can just do whatever. The fact that certain angles, you just lose engine power and then you just basically fall off. So because you got to learn the actual air mechanic, like how the air flow through the planes to be able to. It's not, yeah. I would think that it's a skill, of course. You can learn it, but I wouldn't trust myself. I know myself enough that I can't be operating any, like drive a truck is fine, but like, man, being in the air, there's too many dimensions I gotta control, It's not just forward, backward, and left and right. So yeah, that's
Let's see. For Canadian registered airplane and helicopter operations, reported 3 accidents per 100,000 aircraft movements, and 2.8. Da, 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 da. So what does that mean? What that means for small planes? For private recreational aviation shows accident rates of about 4.2 to 5.5 per thousand registered. So it's like 0.5%.
I
It's not
mean,
too bad.
it is not too bad. Yeah, but it does not it's not zero.
Well,
You
that's
know?
the thing. It's never zero
There's
with
never
anything you
zero.
do.
Yeah. So if you become a pilot, that is definitely a risk that you gotta deal with. Sometimes not even your fault, right? Like what happened in New York, the airplane came down and then there was that fire truck came across the tarmac and two pilots were killed, but it's not even their fault. They were like doing their normal thing and then something outside of your control.
Yeah, but I guess it's true. Like that's another interesting thing about. See, like the risk is always going to be there, and if you start doing something like that,
More,
you are introducing
yeah,
a
the
whole new
more
risk category.
every time you fly, right? It's like the more you fly,
It's
the
another
more
chance.
frequency
Yeah,
that
yeah, but
something bad
that's
can
like
happen.
life. What are you gonna do?
It
Not
is it is
do
life.
anything in
It
life?
is life. But there are relative risks, right? Some stuff are more riskier than, others. That's why some people stay home.
Yeah, but it gets boring if you stay home. That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
But you know how many phobias there are, right? There's some people who have this, phobia of the outside. They don't go outside because
Agoraphobia. Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy how many different thing kind of mental.
No, you can be afraid of anything, but I don't know. Fear is kind of silly. I don't understand it. Like, what is there to be afraid of, really?
But it works.
And for what
But it
reason?
works, right? You're just afraid that you're gonna. Well, I mean, it's the biological response of like you fear that you're gonna perish because of some dangers, and that fear put that into a flight response, right? So these are just built-in stuff that you have no control over, right? So we as humans, we have to learn to deal with it. We have to kind of find a way to kind of, in the modern day, you have to rationalize what does that fear mean, right? And how to override it because it's a natural thing. What the body cares is that you don't die prematurely, right? So you're ingrained with that. So everything that happens to you, a lot of it is underwritten by the ancient lizard brain, right? So, but as a modern human, you just have to learn how to deal with that. And a lot of the problem is, I guess, when you don't understand it enough or when you don't have a good grasp of it, then a certain condition might take over your life. Things like anxiety, mental depression, all these different manifestations. It's just you're not properly dealing with the situation somehow, right? With your, I don't know, with everything, right? So have a good balance of that is, I don't know, understand you more about yourself to be able to, it's more about explaining it to yourself, Like if you understand yourself better, if you rationalize it in a way in which you can understand it, then you have a better sense of yourself. You can control yourself much better. Otherwise, you're just like, oh, I don't know what's happening to me. This is crazy.
Interesting. Yes. So it is still kind of like a balance of conscious understanding of yourself and a fullness of that image and a coherence of the story about yourself. There's something about that. But I took a good couple notes for a few of the topics to explore further that we touched upon, because like there's so many of these good things that we keep mentioning, and they're so rich that like each of these tangents is its own whole like category of things we can keep delving into. But this is like, I love it because we're touching upon them and they're giving me ideas for what to explore next. But every time we start or try to go down one of these lanes, we end up with 20 more things on the list and going in some other direction that we never suspected on. So this is what's happening.
But that's the progress. That's the process, right?
That's the podcast.
you find more things as you roll it.
Yeah, it's endless.
But that's a helpful.
We'll never get to the bottom of it, but we will keep trying.
That's what we're saying, right? Just the process is more important than the final product, right? Everything goes into it. Like these conversations are helping. It's helping both of us. I will assume, helping me to kind of process some of the stuff. Because, sometimes I don't make sense, okay? And this is the process I need to kind of try to make sense of it for myself,
Yeah, to formalize it, to put it into form. No, I agree. This is why I like this process, because it's like verbalizing these things is much more different than thinking about them, than just doing anything else. Because this talking about them helps process them, helps define them, helps just investigate them and observe them properly. Yeah.
Because these things, you don't think about these things normally.
Yeah, not like that.
You don't sit around and you like just sit there and like, okay, I'm not going to think about how. You have to converse with somebody and exchange these information and communicate. You can't just like in your own head, because that's how. How you would deem a crazy person is like everything is in your head, right? And the fact is that you need other information to correlate what the actual, because how, as an so even analogy, like how a satellite need 3 to triangulate a coordinate,
Right.
So you can't just do it with 1. What's your reference point, So in the same way, as a person,
create the coordinates.
As a person, you need to create that social coordinate. You got to be, okay, am I crazy in thinking this? Is this crazy to think about? Right? And then that's how you develop this sort of, you can say knowledge, you can say wisdom, you can say whatever it is, but like these are things that are made into something much more concrete by sharing and correcting the errors, essentially. Right? Because we all have blind spots, and if you share enough information with another person, then, because obviously there are going to be things that each person perceives that can be a gem, a nugget that seems to really make sense, right? And then another person can give you that as well. So when you cross pollinate these things, and it's like, okay, now we create a framework, right, where you can place these things and try to make sense of it. This is what we're trying to do, right? Because it seems like all these topics that came up are the things that we care about, that we cannot formulate ourselves, or like at least we have inklings and ideas about it, but how do you develop it? You need to talk about it, right? To develop it further into some way of thinking. I mean, I know like this is not like we're creating some new territories or what have you, but it's definitely.
No, we're exploring it.
It's like, but that's how multifaceted everything is, right? Because you can be talking about the same thing. It could be the same topic that somebody else talk about, but when you talk about, you have new insights.
Yeah, into your own perspective will still be there.
Yeah, I think that's the valuable part.
Even though it may be, you are not saying anything new, but it's still your own mind that is going over it, sometimes for the first time, sometimes you literally have an insight through that where you're like, oh, okay, that's what it means. And this cognizing of meaning is kind of like a unique instance of it. In this way, there's just a potential, there's an opportunity to create new meaning or understand something or break down something further, that's kind of like science in that way, right? Because it doesn't matter that others have done experiments. You can read them, you can understand them, and you can improve them. But that's all we're doing. For you to be able to do that, you need to be engaged in the thing. And this is what it looks like for us. It's kind of like, exploring all these ideas and experiences and life and what's possible and what happens to other people and what happens with our experiences and our reactions and opinions, and just trying to synthesize it, trying to evaluate it, understand it, and to integrate it into the next decision-making processes and world-building ideas and understanding.
And the other thing is, I think this is a constant theme that keep happening that I picked up is like, as we talk about it this time, was that part of it is to embrace your individuality and also put yourself out there. This is what we're doing. And I feel like for anybody listening, right, and watching, it's like, that's the process. You have to value yourself enough to be like, maybe I do have something to share. Maybe there is something. Maybe it's not groundbreaking, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, you still want to kind of put yourself out there in a way that maybe it can generate new insights and new things. Talk with different people, talk with your friend, talk with what we're doing here. We're doing all kinds of stuff that, I mean, this is the current meta anyway. All right. I mean, we're living in a new world of hyper connectivity. That's not going away unless something horrible happened to the networks and everything, right? The world ends, then maybe then. But now that we're connected, everybody is. There's just no way to go back. So you might as well share your opinion, share your thoughts, and that's how we can, as people, I guess, kind of make sense of the world. We need more data, right? We need more data points to interchange to kind of find the truth, because the problem is, like we're discussing how the AI in China just regurgitate propaganda. That's what will happen when you don't have enough data points to kind of bounce back.
It will be BS essentially.
Yeah.
It
So
will
the more
distort reality and what people want.
the more people do this, kind of converse across the internet, the better our social fabric will be, because you are actually having conversation and discussing things that are happening. There are going to be BS, there are going to be propaganda out there, but the more you talk about these things, the more you're going to have the real data to kind of put through, to kind of run through, to find out, right? That's the value of different voices, because otherwise, if you only listen to a couple voices out there, then your thought process might be screwed, might be as screwed, and not that you're not getting the right information, right? I mean, you still have to suss out everything, man. This is the difficult part. Is there's too much stuff, and you have to talk, figure it out. So
yeah, on that positive note, let's wrap it up before we overfry it.
Oh my god, every single time overcook this,
Yeah, it's gotten too crispy. Let's leave it off before we burn it off. Yeah, so until next time, we have plenty of things to continue into the next one. Until then, stay crispy.
Yeah.